Yo, what's up guys? Another tier list, the LD5 tier list. Same as yesterday, we're going over all of the LD5 units in the game. Global tier list, so that does mean that some of the units might be higher ranked in certain things in the game than other things in the game. Things that I'm going to be looking at is early game, Dungeons and R5, TOA hard and hell, and also siege offense, defense, arena offense, defense, and RTA. Also, once again, means if unit is placed low, it doesn't mean that the unit is specifically bad. It can still be used in like some niche mechanics or anything like that. But this is just a placement where I place these units, and it might be somewhat RTA biased. I think a lot of the LD5s currently are more focused towards PvP than PvE. There's a few of them that are heavy PvE though. And also, once again, this is my tier list and my opinion, so you are allowed to disagree. I hope I placed all of the LD5s in there. I think I did. I also added in the free-to-play LD Net 5s because yesterday in the video, people actually asked me why not place them in, because we just want to see like a ranking between the different units, and then also like how are they built and like what are they used for and that kind of stuff. So we'll mention those things as well in this case. And once again, we have the tiers of 100 to 55. It is the same meaning as this is triple S, double S, 1S, A, B, like all of that kind of stuff like normally. Normally for the tier list, I use this because I do the RTA tier list and then I want to put like a tier list in between, and there's kind of, or a list in a ranking in between that. And it's kind of difficult to say, okay, double S and a half, but I can say 97.5. So for that reason, I tend to use these and I keep using those. I'll just go from top left to bottom right. So if you look at the screen right now, you can maybe look at where the units will be placed kind of at certain times. But of course, there will also be timestamps down in the description. And if you want to check the video of all of the elemental units, then check out the video of yesterday with all of the elemental units. And I would say for some of the LD5s that you might be putting towards storage, I can maybe give you a few tips of where you can actually use them, what kind of teams, or where in general. First, starting off with Jean. Jean is definitely a RTA unit only. You could place it in siege offense, wouldn't place it anywhere else. TOA and that kind of stuff, it's not really great, but it's a really good unit for RTA, but it's only exceptionally good in RTA. Everything else, it is not that great. Common build is Vio with speed, crit damage, and accuracy or HP. I'm not sure. I think he awakens accuracy, so you probably don't need accuracy on him. You can just take the accuracy from the runes itself. So you don't want to really overstack accuracy on that matter. But the thing is, he does a lot of damage on his skill 2, and he has the perfect setup of his skill 3 giving himself speed buff, and with speed buff, the S2 always crits. Or, well, not always if you outspeed the enemy. But definitely a very good unit for that. Is somewhat lower placed because you don't use it anywhere else in RTA and it's just an RTA unit. But it does very well in RTA. In RTA tier list he was like way up there, but here is just like 85, I would say. Zeratul, you see sometimes in siege defense, sometimes in arena or siege offense, I guess. PvE used to be a little bit more interesting because you were able to use dots against some of the dungeons like PC and SF. Those were mainly the useful ones with dots. This case, no longer possible. Siege defense, I don't think he really does the best. Arena defense wouldn't use them. Siege offense, you could use them, but I don't really see people use them there as well. RTA-wise, also don't really see him being used. Common build is, well, crit rate on the 4, you want to have the max on the crit rate. I would say speed, crit rate, attack, or attack, crit damage, attack, something like that. Kind of depends how much damage you want to do and how tanky you want to be. But he's fairly difficult to rune. I think he needs just too much stats with the crit rate, the HP, doing enough damage, and then there's also a few hard counters like a Kinky, which he can never crit, for example. And those kind of things just make Zeratul quite a bunch weaker. So I would give him 65 right now, and it's definitely that he would need a little bit extra to actually become more in the meta. But he's not on the lowest tier though. Then we have Han. I haven't really seen Han anywhere else outside of RTA. I would personally use Han if I had one in Siege offense. But that is more of a bruiser fight rather than like a guaranteed win kind of thing. So I think Han is kind of on the same level. Could you do something extra with Han that you can't really do with a Zeret or with a Jean? I am not too sure. I would say like Jean you can also put towards Siege offense. So I think they're kind of on the same level. Very good units for RTA, but overall, like, are they exceptionally good in everything? No, it's just like pretty to very good in RTA. I would actually say I give you one up for you because you have like the unique speed lead and you can create some more unique teams with that in Siege offense, you could go for like a Han Dark Robo plus like another Dark unit or something, which I do think is very strong. Han is definitely elevated by a lot if you have the Dark Robo for like general play in, I would say, for teaming up. Typical build is Violent on speed, crit rate, HP or attack. Could go crit damage on the 4 as well, but you want to max out that crit rate for sure. And have some accuracy on him. Then we go for Acroma. Acroma is pretty bad in current spot. I would say it's a Siege offense guaranteed win against a Doomon, but that's only very specifically against the Doomon. I would say it's not that bad against some other dark units as well, as long as they're not additional damage dealers pretty much. I would say arena defense doesn't really do too well. I would say that in RTA also doesn't do too well. It's kind of lacking something in her kit that counters out getting like fully fucked by additional damage artifacts. If she had the Maya passive where multi-hits only hit once on it, she would become definitely a meta again. But until then, I think she's kind of on a bad spot at the moment. I would give her a 65 because she's used to, like in some situations, Siege offense, she's like a guaranteed win. But PvE and anything else, no, she's not. Typical build for her, you could go the old school way of triple revenge, but most people go via revenge. You don't need any resistance. You could build it pretty fast so she can cycle in the silence, which is decently to nice, but she's not really in a great spot. Then we have Trinity. 33 leads on Arena is kind of a weak 33 lead, but it's also one of those units, if you buff it by just a little bit, it's suddenly going to become very OP, aka Oliver. Is she kind of worth getting buffed? I would say so, because she's really bad in current position. I would say she's best in slot on the speed lead of dealing damage. She's better than a Samath in dealing damage for sure. So if you're building a cleave with a Trinity, it could work, but she's not really too great at it in the first place. You could build a triple fight for an offense in Arena or something like that as well. But she's also not used anywhere else. So I give Trinity a 60. I would probably still use her, try to make her use in some kind of weird cleave. I don't think she's absolutely useless. But she's kind of on the level where she's pretty close to that tier. Then we have Sarath, which is pretty much dungeon meta for Giants. Dungeon meta, well, I would say for Giants, I think if you have good enough runes, you can put Sarath into every dungeon except for R5 and Necro, most likely. So that's very strong. Arena offense, definitely a good potential to still go for a Leo, Gemini, and then a Kabila, because you can do that with Kabila these days. You don't need to do that with a Frigate anymore, because Gemini can always still strip and give defense breaks. So that is definitely a very nice offense, and I would definitely be using that if I had a Sarath. I would say Sarath for me, I would give him a 90. And the thing is, he's not that great in RTA. If you have a very specific cleave in RTA, you could maybe make it use. But he's mainly like a Siege offense, Arena offense, and a PvE god. Like, it's literally like a PvE god for the dungeons. Would I give him 1 up for that? Not really. Well, you can put him to defense as well. No, I actually put him 1 up. I put him on the 95 because you can use him in defense as well. Because you have seen those defense with like speed lead and then super fast Raccoon and a very slow Sarath. Because Sarath is always going to do S3. Raccoon is always going to do the S2 on the Sarath. If you happen to have an Elenoa, Elenoa has even higher AI rate to, well, a higher base speed and has perfect AI to do that on the Sarath as well. Plus Sarath with like on defense on inter-server with like, well, you need a Neftis for that one to be very good on that one. But Sarath is pretty solid for that as well. But even without that, in normal arena defense, Raccoon, Sarath with like a Samath and then something else, if your Sarath does enough damage, it's definitely a very deadly defense out there. Siege defense, it's not as great, but it's kind of usable everywhere except for, well, it's usable in a lot of places. And plus, it's like the sheer god of being like a PvE god for clearing the waves. It's absolutely the fastest wave clear you can get. You do need good runes on him. Most common build, I would say Rage with a lot of HP, a lot of crit damage, a lot of crit rate, and that's the way to go. Then we have Julian. I've seen a few Julians on Siege defense, but not that great success in most cases. It's like hard counted by one of those units that can snipe out an anti-revive unit, like a Rocky or a Grogan or something like that. Still definitely a decent unit in that. I would say Siege offense, guaranteed win. I see a lot of people go in with like Siege offense of Nana Riley, and then the Julian or something like that. There's a few other options out there that are definitely very strong for Julian. I would definitely say he's very good in RTA right now. He's not too great in PvE anything. He's not too great in TOA or anything. But for that reason, I place him on the 90 because he's similar to the Han. He does have a little bit less like setup for like the speed lead that the Han has. That gets very creative teams in there. But definitely something for Siege offense and once again PvP RTA god. With Grogan, I would say is just arena offense and siege offense. Does very well at those. Can be used in PvE things for like Labyrinth and kind of stuff. It's not too bad over there as well, like Labyrinth or going for the Monster Subjugation. It has the 2 AoE, so it's definitely not bad for those. It's not really his meta where he shines a lot. Like in the meta where he was facing a lot of, or you saw a lot of Nanas on defense, both on, or you saw like a lot of Vanessa Trianas on defense, or those kind of things. It definitely made him a bit better, so he's slightly worse, but I would still definitely say that Grogan is definitely a good unit to pick up. You could place him in RTA, but I wouldn't really recommend it. Like RTA is not really his place to shine. It's definitely arena offense, siege offense. Most common build I would say is Swift with Blade. You could go Swift with Will as well. I would recommend to go attack, crit damage, attack. And then you want to go artifacts for attack increasing effect because his third skill has like a built-in crit damage increaser. So you don't really have to go for super high crit damage. You could even get away with going like crit rate slot 4, but I still recommend to go crit damage slot 4. Get in a bunch of that, but mainly focus on getting high attack in. If you can build it on a fatal set, would be pretty nice too. But his base speed is pretty low and you have to keep him in tune as well. That's important for Grogan. Most common teams is mainly like Galleon, Tiana, Grogan. Cool thing about Galleon, Tiana, Grogan, if your Galleon misses all of the skills and you go for skill 2, you can still stun and save the match, whereas S3 might have not killed, for example. So, few good options in there as well. Next off, we have Cadiz. Cadiz you see on Siege defense. It's definitely not too bad on Siege defense. It's kind of annoying if it starts proccing a lot. You have a few options with going like a Carcano plus something, and then the Cadiz are going for a Mian Kiklet, and then a Cadiz, which might be a little bit on Lucian food, so you have to be careful on that. But definitely for Siege defense. Siege offense might be used. PvE, I would say you could use it to R5, but there's actually ways out there that you can have like a full-on branding team without using a Cadiz or a Jera. So it's not really a must anymore to say like, oh, this is my consistent brander out there. I would say for SF, he might be useful, but then again, if you place him towards SF or R5, you can't really keep him ruined for Siege, so that kind of makes them a little bit worse. RTA, he is not that great, can be used, so he's a bit of good everywhere, but he's also not really good at anything specifically, whereas, for example, Grogan is very good at what he does. Cadiz is just okay to what he does. I would say for R5, if you don't want to build like the very specific team and you would just want to keep it very simple, Cadiz is my brander, then I would say that has quite some value. But besides that, I feel like he's not unique enough, whereas a Grogan, for example, is the unique value where, yeah, the anti-revive like he does, there's not too many units that do it specifically like that on that much damage as he does. Eludia, I would say Siege offense, maybe. Arena offense for sure. Strongest arena offense is actually including an Eludia, but you need a Lucifer as well. Eludia, Lucifer, Leo +1 is still one of the strongest, if not the strongest arena offenses in the game. But you need that Lucifer for that. Without that, Eludia is pretty nice. But the big issue with Eludia is that you have to land the strip, you have to land the armor break, and then you also have to not trigger a passive such as a Balio or Samath or anything of those annoying things. That is not really too great in current meta, I would say. So in current meta, he's kind of struggling. You could place him or her, I don't even know what it is, towards Siege offense. But in Siege offense, you're kind of struggling on the same thing. Like you actually have to land those things. And in Siege, you most of the time want to go for more consistent hits rather than the tricky hits. And I actually missed a few of the builds earlier, but for the build on the Eludia, I would definitely go for a, well, just high damage, high crit rate, high accuracy, and pretty much all of that, whether you get that through Swift or anything else. I missed the builds on Julian and Cadiz, so let me go over those real quick. Julian, you want to go 70 crit rate and then full on crit damage and speed, because he actually has speed scaling on the skill 2. You could add in some defense rather than HP, because for every defense you add, he will take less damage and therefore also drain less HP from his allies. If you go more HP, you still take the same amount of damage, he's still draining the same amount. So HP is not that high value on him, unless you want to survive a Rocky or something. But a lot of defense on him actually does have some value to it. And of course, high attack, high crit damage, high crit rate, high speed, all of that good stuff. Some accuracy in there is definitely useful as well. Kha'Zix I would definitely put towards probably low crit rate, but very high additional damage artifacts kind of style. And then keep in a lot of HP, a lot of attack, a lot of speed, and good accuracy on probably Fire Read. Moving on to Jara. Jara's kind of the same thing as a Kha'Zix. It is best in slot for some PvE dungeons if you have certain other LD5s next to it, I would say. Without that, I'm not too sure if Jara is still a best in slot for example, dragons or giants or anything like that. It could be. I think you can make it work, but you need to be somewhat creative for just the Jara without, for example, a Lucifer next to it, or without, for example, a Seraph next to it. If you happen to have those units, you could go for like a Seraph, Jara, Ikaru, and then some other units. But since we have Brillia right now, which is such a good death break in the first place, and we have the Tesher set up in Giants, the Jara becomes a little bit less interesting for that. So for R5, there's still some potential to place it in. I think in R5, Jara is still very strong. I would absolutely use Jara in R5 if I had one. Well, to be honest, I have my R5 already on 21 seconds, and Jara would not make that any faster, most likely. I kind of doubt that it would actually make it faster. So for that reason, Jara is okay for most people to place to R5 or dungeons. But it's pretty much that. You could use it in Siege offense. I think it's somewhat underrated for Siege offense because he actually does a great amount of damage. Once again, kind of has that issue, like I actually have to land anything to get anywhere. So for that reason, I think it's just the PvE things, but it's not as unique anymore. And the value that this thing has, you can put it on Siege defense. This thing you would never put in Siege defense. This thing you can bring to RTA. This thing I wouldn't bring to RTA. So Jara gets a 65 for me for that reason. Then we have Artemil. Artemil, I would say, is just a RTA unit, and it's not really that great at it. Current builds, I would say I would go for a... I would say that I would go for a Artemil simply on a lot of damage. I wouldn't even go 100 resistance, and I would just make it a Leo counter. So that's the only thing I would use it for, but I feel like Artemil doesn't really have that much place to shine. Like a good place, Artemil in RTA does have like some value, but since the unit is only good in RTA and doesn't shine that well there, it's not really placed that high for me. And some people might disagree with that. I think most of the people that don't have it would disagree with me. The people that do have it would probably agree with me, because Artemil, I would say, is one of the lesser used units. You could place it in Siege offense maybe, or Arena offense if you have some slow clear like that. I would say Arena offense for a Bruiser fight. If you want to do a slow clear Bruiser fight with like Leo, Alaya, Feng Yang, Artemil, that would definitely be a strong offense out there. So yeah, for that reason, you can place that, and you could maybe also do like a Leo, Alaya, Artemil in Siege, but then again, a Feng Yang would do that so much better. But there are a few options out there where you could say like, okay, this could maybe do something, or if you think of a different unit that can give like a defense break for Artemil, like a Ritesh or something, there's a few options out there for Siege offense and that kind of stuff. So he's a little bit out there anywhere, but he's never there really good, I would say. Fermion, I would say kind of on the same level, but even worse. It's a guaranteed insta-win in Siege offense. In Siege offense, it's actually very good. Anywhere else, it's not that great. I would actually, if I had a Fermion, also place him in the same team with Arena offense for like a slow clear. I think he would do very good in there, because Fermion actually has insane damage. And the team would be, once again, the Leo, Alaya, Feng Yang, and then a Fermion. In Siege, I would definitely use it with an Alaya, Fermion, and then a something. Doesn't even have to be a Leo in that case, so you could place other units in there as well. Or you can use it with an Amelia and then something next to it. Fermion is definitely a Siege offense insta-win. Siege defense, not that great. Maybe in low rank Siege defense could do a thing here and there, but you want to have like an RNG armor break next to it, so he doesn't full tumble in all of his damage into like the light golem or something like that. So once again, not really a great unit, but I would still use it for something. Would I want down this? No, I think it's kind of fine at the 65 spot. It kind of feels similar to the other units. Then we have Lima. Lima, oh wait, I missed the build for the Fermion. Fermion build, first of all, is going to be, I would say, just high on damage, high tanky, high overall stats, high crit rate, little bit of accuracy, probably Vio something. Vio Will, Vio Revenge. Not even sure if Revenge... Does he Revenge by himself? I forgot. If not, Revenge on him. Lima. Lima I would definitely place pretty high. Lima's good for, I would say, you can place it towards like Labyrinth stages or TOA stage to make it kind of safe. It's not really that great. Siege offense, if kind of a bruiser fight, it's not that bad. I like to use it together with the Odin offense, so a Dark Cassandra, Odin, and then a Lima. Would you be able to place a Wusa in there and do just as good? The answer is kind of yes, so it's not that great in there. RTA, it's pretty decent, but it's not exceptionally good. Siege defense, it's kind of okay-ish, but also not really good. Same for Arena offense, it's kind of okay, but not really good. So Lima's on a lot of those spots. Also for RTA, it's kind of okay, but also not really extremely good. So Lima's really one of those spots. It's kind of okay-ish in everything, but it's not really great at anything. But the overall value, because you can place her at that many things, I would give her an 85, because I think it would be unfair to give that an 80. She's not great at anything, but she's definitely okay-ish in almost everything. So Lima 85 for me on that. Most common builds is you could go for Despair, you could go for Vio. Crit rate on the slot 4 is nice, but you could also go high HP. And most of the time you want to be fast and you want to outspeed the rest of your team to either provide the immunity or provide the invisibility. And that's pretty much it to the Lima. Gianna. Gianna's kind of in a rough spot at the moment. Used to be somewhat okay-ish in siege defense the moment that the S1 was doing the hard cycling and then you could pair it with like a Oak. I still see some Giannas with like Sierra, Gianna, Marsha. It's not really a great defense in my opinion. It doesn't really do too much. It's pretty straightforward. Like all of the units are going to hit exactly what their element are supposed to hit. So it's very easy to counter that whole defense with just a few fire units and one light unit or something like that. It's a bunch more options than that. Even Heigang and that kind of stuff hard counters it already. Heigang also makes her troublesome in RTA. In RTA she doesn't also really have like the best of spots at the moment. PvE, she's not good for anything. Arena offense or defense, she's not good for anything. Some people might say like, oh, she's the best stripper for a bomber offense. I totally disagree with that, because a Water Ezio already does way better, or Tiana is way more consistent and you have the attack bar boost. You could go for a stripper that has an attack bar buff, as in Jogun or Norkila. So she kind of lost her shine in a lot of the things that she was used to be good at. So I would say that Gianna is a 75 for me, because you can't really use it anywhere too much. But the thing where you can use her, which is RTA, maybe Siege Offense. Siege Offense, she's also kind of tricky. Like a lot of the Siege Offense I lost was actually due to her missing her stuff. So I would say Gianna is just a 75 for me because of the overall usage. Is that the same level as Cadiz? Does that make sense? Yeah, Cadiz you can put to PvE and a few other things, whereas Gianna you can't really do that at the moment. I would say in lower ranks, Gianna in RTA might shine a little bit more than in higher ranks, but she's not really great in the current meta. There's too many things that outspeed her, there's too many things that just counter her strips and stuns and everything like that. So not really the greatest of units at the current case. Builds, I would still say Swift or Vio. You could go for the crit rate 4. You want to have high accuracy, but even if you go max accuracy, it still has that issue of if you expect everything to land, you're gonna have a bad day. Next up is Laura. I've seen some Laura on Arena Defense. It is a pretty decent unit for Arena Defense because of the high base speed if you make it Swift. Could be Despair as well for disrupting, for like, for example, into server defense. Siege defense, I really haven't seen it too much. I also don't think she would do too good in siege defense. Siege offense, kind of neither. Arena offense wouldn't really use her, but she is, well, by far the best RTA unit out there right now. You could even place her towards like TOA autoing, because the speed buff, the defense buff make it very safe for the rotations of your team. She has the S1 cycling, she has the S2 which gives slow, and then also the stun. So there's a lot to her kit for PvE dungeons as well. And yeah, she's just a nice boost up for the whole team. If I had one, I would definitely place it in Siege Offense as well. I haven't seen anyone use it in Siege Offense, but I would definitely place her together with like units like Varad or something. So you go for a Laura, Varad, and then like some kind of armor break or anything like that. Or if you want to go a little bit safer with something that's defense scaling, you can even just Laura Feng Yang +1, and that's already like super strong because you provide that defense buff all the time. So I would definitely say for Siege Offense, she has her spot in there. It's just that I haven't really seen people use it, but I would absolutely use that. And I think it's very much a free win because defense buff is very strong. People tend to forget attack buff is 50% up. Defense buff is 70% up. And if units scale with damage that is defense, they also make it harder to kill those units. So it goes both ways. You do more damage and you're harder to kill. So defense buff is really strong and defense scalers are absolutely very strong. So for that reason, I would give Laura a 95. She's not the greatest in defense things, so therefore she's not 100. But she's definitely a very, very good unit for all of that stuff. Most common builds, well, as I said, you could go Swift, you could go Fire, you could go Despair. You want high accuracy and then a lot of stats. That's the main thing that you want to go for. Next up, we have Nikki, and I would say Nikki's probably 100 for me. Let me go over why. Nikki for early game is insanely good. Dungeons, well, I wouldn't really place it to like dragons, giants, that kind of stuff, but if you take a look at like the labyrinth stages, TOA stages, anything like besides the normal farming dungeons, Nikki would do insanely well. Siege Offense, absolutely a unit I would use because she doesn't just provide like a lot of damage and the attack buff, she also provides that cleanse that is pretty much, if you have enough attack, it's full AoE heal plus full AoE cleanse on low cooldown because you have that strongness 1. Then Siege Defense, definitely used. Arena Defense, not as much. You see it from time to time on inter-server defense. Normal Arena Defense, not that much. Wouldn't really recommend. Maybe in lower ranks if it's more of bruiser fights. You could get away with it if it's not illusion food. But Siege Defense, definitely there. Siege Offense, definitely there. RTA, very good unit. So Nikki is the first 100 for me. Most common builds, I would say Vio Will or Vio Nemesis. And then you want to go speed attack attack or speed HP attack or something along that line, like switch the way around. Definitely an insanely good unit. Asima, which I would claim is the best early game unit in the game. The amount of dots that it provides, the amount of easiness that this unit is to rune, the amount of like despair stuns that you can give on it on like the very first despair set that you give or that you get. Early game, insanely strong. Dungeons, very good, except for the fact that we cannot dot the bosses anymore. So for the actual dungeons that we farm right now, you cannot really use her too much. However, if you place it towards TOA, she's absolutely a TOA god. Like all of those labyrinth stages, anything like that, she's absolutely like subjugation, monster subjugation. She's absolutely a god in all of those. Siege Offense, I would definitely try to find like ways to use her. I think she's really well paired with like an Amber. So if you go a Stripper, Asima, Amber, even if it's like just a Tiana or anything like that. If you would go Nora, you even have more debuffs based on that. Nora also does more damage based on more debuffs on the field. So like her with Nora, Amber is definitely a very strong team out there, I would say so. Most common builds, I would say Despair. You could go Vio on it. But I think Despair is the best way to play her because she also has that cycling, lots of AoEs. Is she a 95 though? You can place it to RTA, but she doesn't shine as well in RTA. I wouldn't place her on a Siege Defense, I wouldn't place her on Arena Defense. So it's all of the offense kind of things. But I think because she is the best, absolute the best unit for early game and early game dungeons. If you don't go straight to Abyss, which, well, it's too bad that you cannot dot the Abyss dungeons. Like, if you could dot the Abyss dungeons, she would for sure be 95. But since you can't really dot those, I'm somewhat struggling to say that she fits like the 90 role. I would say she's insanely good for early game, but later game, I think people will use her a little bit less. So for that reason, I think I'll give her a 90. She's very good in RTA, but only when she fits the draft. And it's kind of rare where she actually fully fits the draft. So I would give that a 90. Is that fair though? I feel like Asima's so good. I feel like Asima is so good for TOA, all of that kind of good stuff. Nah, I would definitely say... I'm very tempted on this one to put it 95. This is the one I'd mostly... It is one of the cooler units for like anything out there, so... I think you can't really go wrong with an Asima in general. So yeah, I'm gonna put Asima 95. Because Siege offense just so good. It's just the defense thinks it's not really great. But anything else, it's really shining in. So yeah, would place it 95. You have Kraka, we see it's on Siege defense. I think it's mainly Siege defense. You can put it to TOA for some safety reasons. It's not really too great at it. I would say that you can put it arena defense, but it's also not super great. That RTA can put it, but not super great once again. So it's kind of like it does a little bit of everything, but it's never really super great at it. But I think the unit is also somewhat underrated. Siege defense, I've definitely seen some Siege defense, even on like high G3 level, that can do quite some work. You mostly pair it up with like a Chandra and then Kraka and then something else next to it, or something along the lines where you have some survivability, you're not gonna get Lucianed, like you could put Pernas next to it, those kind of things. She does provide that AoE armor break, which is RNG, which also strips, and if you put it on this pair, also stuns. That is a very loaded skill too, like an insanely loaded skill too. The only issue is the activation rates are low. But she has a super loaded S2, works very well with additional damage artifacts. I would definitely put her on this pair. I think that's the best set for her. And then you want to max out the crit rate, so probably crit rate slot 4. And the rest I would go full on tanky stats for her. But Kraka gets an 80 for me for that reason. Jaeger. Jaeger recently was buffed to get the threat state, or yeah, I think it's threat state what he gets. Or was it provoke? No, I think threat state. I think he's pretty good at that if he keeps cycling that and he keeps getting those skills in all the time, but he has to counter for it, and his counter rates are somewhat on the lower end. I think he is underrated for RTA. I've seen, for example, El Mimo play with him. That was always a Ragdoll plus Jaeger spammer in the prime time of Jaeger Ragdoll. He's been doing that quite some spamming right now as well, and these units of him hit really hard. Like a Justice of this thing easily hits like 30k, no armor break. And then just an attack buff or some stuff. It's really insane. So definitely a unit I feel is underrated, but then again, wouldn't really put it anywhere PvE, wouldn't really put it anywhere Siege defense, arena defense. It's just an RTA unit, maybe Siege offense, but Siege offense is already kind of a thing. Like maybe against a team that's stunning a lot, and then you think like, okay, without that I can kind of do my thing. Also for RTA, it's not really too great, but I feel like he's a little bit underrated for that as well. So I think I give Jaeger do I give him a 70 or does he fit the 65 range? I guess I give him the 65 range because he's kind of okayish in a bunch of spots, but he doesn't really shine at them too much. So I think the 65 spot is kind of fair for him. But I do still feel like that he is somewhat underrated. So if more people pick him up and we might see him shine a bit more, I think he might be ending up at a 70. He's definitely the first of this line to be at a 70 range. Most common builds are either Vio plus damage or going for Vampire. I do think, especially if you pair him with a Ragdoll, I think his best pair is with a Ragdoll. Without it, he's a little bit worse. With a Ragdoll, he's maybe up here. Without a Ragdoll, he's there in RTA, I would say. With Ragdoll, I would definitely make this thing on Vampire. He's definitely a very deadly unit on Vampire, especially if he has the threat state. He gets hit quite more often, so then if you're vamping up those stats, it's definitely probably better than going for Vio procs, I would say, on this unit. And building quite some tanky, 100 crit rate, rest in damage, and some speed. Then we have Ragdoll, the brother that we were just talking about. I would say Ragdoll is one of the best dark tanks for Siege. It's actually underrated for that, but if you need a dark tank for Siege, Ragdoll does a very well job because you have that reflect, and reflect in this game means that you're also reducing damage. Because of that reason, Ragdoll might be a very good tank. I would say arena defense, you don't really see it too much. I've seen some arena defenses here and there that might actually take people off guard and then it actually works. And that's most of the time where there's an arena defense where you need to do a little bit of a chip damage, or you need to do something first before, like for example, you have a unit that might crit, like your Nefties might crit the Ragdoll, and therefore the whole team starts moving if the enemy is fast enough. So if you pair a Ragdoll, you would still have to pair him with fast units. And that's, I think, where a lot of Ragdoll users play Ragdoll wrong. They use Ragdoll and then a full-on turn 2 team that's at like 30 speed, like plus 30 speed. Like, yeah, even if I crit the whole team, plus 30 speed is not gonna move. But if I crit one unit from, for example, a Moor, or from a CP, or from like a Gianna skill 3, and your units are actually fast, your whole team does move. So Ragdoll is, I would say, a very strong late pick in RTA, probably even a must ban in RTA if you pick it late. Early game, you can kind of spam it, but then you would still have to have like a very specific draft to make it really good. PvE related, not good anywhere. Arena offense, unless you have a Viva Gel, I probably don't think it is that great. You could put this next to a Leo once again. So if you go for an offense that is, let's say, Leo, Riley, Ragdoll, plus another support unit to make things safe, I would definitely say that that would be like, I would say that a team like Riley, Annabelle, Leo, and then Ragdoll would be a very strong offense that could auto a lot of things. That would definitely be an option that I would probably do, but he's not really too great at it. For RTA, he's kind of good at it, but also more of a last pick. So he's kind of on the Gianna slot. He's kind of okay in a whole bunch of things, but not like super great, and PvE not worth anything. So Ragdoll used to be all the way at the top, but well, that was mainly just like an RTA unit all the way at the top. Currently, he's not really that great at the moment. We have the Light Monkey. Very good unit for RTA, very good unit for TOA. Other dungeons, I would say early game, like just clearing your normal dungeons with a Light Monkey is probably going to be very easy. Siege offense, arena offense, you could use him there, but I think it's more of a like a 2, as we call it. That's a very RTA kind of style of doing your siege. It is not bad, like for example, you go Robo, Light Monkey, and then something else. But you're also kind of waiting for anything to proc out and to do a lot of damage on you. So if you're just waiting for those procs, yeah, that could be an issue out there. So I would say that you probably have to go more for like safer offenses, either a Cleave or a Bruiser like that. He's definitely not bad for it though. I would absolutely use him. I think you can actually put some damage to him, which a lot of people do lack on him. But I think for Siege offense, defense, he's not great. Arena offense, defense, not great. PvE stuff, he's pretty good. RTA, he's very good. So he kind of ends up at the same level as Jean. Like, is good at like one or two other things, but for like mostly just good in RTA, and therefore it goes for there. I would say that the Xingzi is best for the speed HP accuracy or speed HP. You can put some crit rate to him because he has some HP scaling on the skill 3. The skill 2 and skill 1 I don't think have any HP scaling, but there's some damage potential in him as well. But besides that, you just want to have max accuracy and make him a bit tanky. About the Ragdoll build, I would say a lot of Ragdolls are very tanky. If you place him in Siege offense, I would say that tankiness is good. If you place him in Arena, I would definitely say Vio. You could place him on Nemesis, you could place him on Will, but I would say a lot of damage is the way to go. Because most people kind of ignore your Ragdoll all the way till the end, so you might as well have your Ragdoll do quite some damage while he's at it. So definitely go for a damage Ragdoll in my opinion. 100 crit rate. Lots of damage, probably attack, crit damage, attack, and then still make sure that you have enough speed around like 60 to like 100 or something, but still get like a decent amount of HP and defense. If you can't really get that, maybe trade in some of the attack for HP and defense. Dark Monkey is one of those units that has been buffed, I think like 16,000 times right now, but it's still shit. It's still the activation rate on the skill 3 that is horrendously bad. We also have another unit right now on the skill 3 that AoE stuns and is just absorbs attack bar and just feels so much better on that skill 2 because the Water Dokkaebi Lord pretty much has the same skill set as a Dark Monkey. It has the Awakening into Speed, it has Stun in S1, it has Strip on S2, not in this case with an armor break but with a branding, and on the skill 3 it has a stun, but that stun is guaranteed and actually drains HP, and actually all of the 3 skills, well, the second and the third skill do damage based on your HP. Whereas Monkey is S1 scaling on attack, S2 scaling on attack, S3 scaling half on attack and half on HP. His attack is like 600 something. He has less attack than most 3 stars. This unit just has no damage scaling for that whatsoever, so that makes him very bad for that. His stun rate is not 100%, whereas the Dokkaebi Lord is 100%. So, like, I would say Dark Monkey was kind of up here, maybe. But with the Dokkaebi Lord being released, the Dokkaebi Lord does everything the Dark Monkey does, but better. So, yeah, this unit is straight up a 60 for me right now. It's really a bad unit. Dokkaebi Lord is so much better. Sure, you could say like, oh, he has the armor break setup and you can use the armor break setup for something. Yeah, maybe. But the thing is, you don't really want... You either want him to make him super fast and then you have to pray that anything is off will. It just becomes that yeah, he's just in a very weird spot. Whereas the Dokkaebi Lord is a great bruiser unit. It gives healing to himself, it gives the branding, it steals a beneficial effect. Like, there's a lot of stuff to it where the Dokkaebi Lord does a lot better than this thing. Plus, the damage on the Dokkaebi Lord is a lot better. And that is mainly simply just... he has the S2 that is the same S2 as a Wusa. Wusa S2 is guaranteed hit based on your HP. Dokkaebi Lord does the same thing. That S2 actually hits quite a lot. I'm not sure about the cooldowns. Cooldowns feel lower on that one as well, but probably they have similar cooldowns. Dark Monkey, how would you build him? You could build him Swift and then max accuracy, that kind of stuff, but would it make him even do less damage because you kind of need crit rate and attack to make him damage, whereas Dokkaebi Lord, you only need HP to make him do damage. Yeah, I don't know. If you put some crazy runes to him, probably the unit can shine, but I would not really recommend to use this all too much. It's not really a great unit whatsoever by all means. I used to use this in Siege offense. It was also the Siege offense that was mainly losing for me, so... probably not using all too much of this anymore. I might use it here and there just for like fun offense if I want to do anything, but it's not really a super great unit or anything. With Shazam, I would say Siege offense, maybe Siege defense, okay-ish. Anything else, pretty bad. So, yeah, since it's just okay-ish in Siege defense, I would probably, like if I had one, I would definitely put it in Siege defense. But I would say in higher ranks of Siege, it's not really like a super great unit. It's most of the time too easy to cleave. It's too straightforward what it's going to do. It is pretty nice with like AoE counter and that kind of stuff. The S1, it feels somewhat of a loaded kit, but only thing he misses is just getting the speed lead. Like if he got a speed lead of 24 in guild or some shit, he would definitely be up there. But until then, he's not really up there, so I give a 65 to Shazam. Most common builds probably Fio, Revenge, Speed, HP. You can't really put too much damage to these units as well. Roll, I would say, is even worse. You can use it for SF. I've seen some people talk about it, that they use him in SF for the skill 3, but apparently the activation rate on it is not too great as well. Siege offense maybe used here and there. Siege defense even worse than his brother, so for that reason I think I put Ruhul on 60. It's really not that great of a unit at the moment. Then we go for, well, roll bolts. I would probably same thing. Maybe I would put Despair on Raoul. Could still be Vio, but also speed, HP. Yeonhong, mainly PvP units. I would say arena offense, you could maybe get creative, but I don't think it's that great. Siege offense, could see it being used here and there, but it's mainly just an RTA unit and an RTA unit that does very well in RTA. But all of the other places, it's not like insanely good. So for an overall tier list, Yeonhong gets an 85 for me because the other places are not really too much shining for her. So it's kind of on line with the other units that are just pure RTA units. You could place her in Siege offense. Is there a Siege? No, wait. She actually has this one really good Siege offense. I forgot what it was. I think it was like the... yeah, I think that one was an insta-win. Wait. I showcased it before. It's really good. I think it's the... like the Light Dagora, so the Warbear, I think. Yeah, the Light Warbear and Conrad. Conrad has speed lead. This thing has high base speed. Then you boost up the Warbear. The Warbear kills itself, then Conrad moves, Conrad trades the HP, and therefore you have pretty much 2 units dead. Yeonhong moves, and then you kill the last unit. It's something like that, but you pretty much guaranteed kill 2 units, which is definitely something I would use all the time if I had a Yeonhong. I think it's one of the stronger offenses out there, because you have that speed lead and a high base speed unit, so you're bound to outspeed a lot of the things out there already. So, and it's definitely nice while you have that Mi Yang plus Kiklet a lot. But since you have 19 lead plus a higher base speed unit, you're kind of on the same level for speed, so you're just kind of speed checking on equal grounds. So yeah, for Siege offense, I guess it's an insta-win on that, but it's that one creative team. I think our most common build is Swift, and I would say speed, crit rate, attack, or speed, crit rate, HP on her. And of course, RTA, very good unit too. Wooyoung is definitely arena offense, but arena offense, it's not really the greatest in current meta. I would definitely use it because you can get some creative things because you have the higher base speed lead. You have a attack buff plus attack booster on a speed lead. So it checks off like 3 marks that you want to do out of like, I don't know how many there are in arena offense. I'll make a video about arena offense tomorrow. Will be on the YouTube channel, of course, as well. But it takes a lot of the check marks of like the whole setup and the outspeed mechanic for your arena offense, and then you can build more damage units, or you can do other units to outspeed. You could go for a Kabila or something. You could go for very high speeds and outspeed everything. So Definitely for arena offense, very unique unit and very good. RTA, it's really bound to this cleave kind of thing. If you happen to have, like, for example, with a Maximilian, if people have it, it's very good. But illusion kind of cleaves in RTA are not really that great anymore. So I would say for arena offense, pretty good. Besides that, the other things is not really that great. So Wu Yong, I would probably put Wu Yong on 70. Like, I would say arena offense, it's very unique, but it's not even the best in meta. Or, well, it's very unique. It might be best in meta what she does, but she's not really... The meta doesn't really ask for her, like, appearance to be good. So for that reason, I would say 70 on her. Just because she has, like, a few things that she can kind of shine in, but it's not really, like, super great. Most common build is just swift and fast. That's the main thing. Nigong, also a unit that's kind of weird in spot. Similar to the Shazam, it's pretty straightforward if you put it to arena defense. It could kind of RNG if people try to armor break it with the Galleon, reset it, but some of those things don't land and it starts throwing up like the skill 3, the soul protects and all of that annoying stuff. Definitely is something that is strong and annoying, but it's just arena defense, siege defense, and that is it. And it kind of depends on meta to meta. I would say in current meta, Nigong on defense is not really doing too well. I had a bunch of occasions where I removed the Nigong, placed in like a Windy on defense on arena, and it actually started doing better. Arena offense or siege offense, like siege offense, you could kind of use it, but you're forcing yourself into this bruiser fight, which is mostly not that good because you're kind of just waiting like, okay, if the enemy procs like 6 times right now, I still lose no matter what my Nigong brings. So you can use Nigong in siege, but offense, but it's not the great. RTA, kind of the same thing. So I would say kind of occasion everything. I would say it's a little bit better than Shazam because you can actually put it in arena defense as well, where Shazam I wouldn't. But it's also not one of the greatest defense units out there right now. It's kind of like too predictable of what it's going to do. And you can still snipe it. Like, it could be a lot of HP. But especially with the Sonias being there right now, a Sonia will pretty much always snipe a Nigong. Then we have Wunsa. And Wunsa you could place for arena offense. But the issue is if the enemy is full non-willed, you're kind of screwed. Same thing for RTA. Anything else, I wouldn't really use the unit. Is Wunsa really good at the moment in RTA? I would say Wunsa is okay, but I would also say Wunsa is not super great. So I actually put it lower than Gianna. And the main reason for that is it's just okay in RTA, but the thing is, you want so many high-speed units at the moment, and Wunsa is one of those. You want like the fastest set on it, but you also want the fastest set on your segment. You want the fastest set on your Etna, on your Escher, on your Zibala. There's a lot of units that ask for that fastest set right now, which makes Wunsa just slightly worse in the slot, because Wunsa is just a 5th pick. I wouldn't pick Wunsa any earlier than a 5th pick, and then do you throw like your 220 or 230 if you have it set at like a 5th pick? Like, it feels kind of iffy, right? Arena offense, yeah, just has the issue where if they're full non-willed, you get screwed on that. Or they are 1 will, but you miss on that 1 will, and then the whole enemy team, like, you still don't boost your whole team. So would be nice if he had like a guaranteed boost in his kit. I think that would be the main thing that he's missing. That he has like a guaranteed boost in his kit, or doing something when the enemy doesn't have any debuffs or some shit like that. That would be a really nice thing for him. But until then, I give him a 70. He's usable, but he's not really that great at those things. Builds, max accuracy, and high speed. That is all there is to it. So some of the free-to-play units, Elsharion and Veramos. Elsharion I don't like too much. Elsharion can be used in siege offense, siege defense. I've seen some in like very specific teams like the Rogue, Dusky, some Speedly, like Sierras maybe for RTA. If you really build your comp around it, it can do very well, but then again, he's also somewhat easy to counter. Leo still counter it hard. He needs to have some buffs to get like his proper speed and his proper damage in. So he's definitely not bad, but I wouldn't say he's used too much. Unless you build like a very specific comp around it, and then it might be decent to good. So Elsharion gets a 65 from me. Also siege defense, you don't see too much PvE things. It's not that interesting. So it's not that great. Veramos is a siege offense god against things like Nora and that kind of stuff. Kiki's also definitely not bad. There's a whole bunch of units that provide a lot of debuffs, which Veramos very much like to eat. In that case, you want to go for more tanky Veramos. You can also place your Veramos in early game for TOA. You can place Veramos in pretty much all of your dungeons these days. Well, I would say mainly in Giants and Dragons, but it is one of the best Giants and Dragons unit for the first year that you're playing the game. So he has a lot of early game value in that. Arena offense, probably wouldn't really use it too much. Well, arena offense, if you're playing inter-server against the Kiki, I think it's definitely a good slot. Arena defense, probably wouldn't place it. RTA, it's one of those 5th picks that's often a must-ban if you're playing into like a Nephthys or Maximilian or a few of those other units, then you want to build it on Triple Nem. Well, actually, I think Triple Nem is a pretty nice build unless you place it in PvE. But I definitely do think that Veramos is actually a very good unit in the current meta. It's not exceptionally good at anything specifically. Well, I would say Siege Offense is very good at that, but an RTA for like a good counter pick. But it really has like this early game value that it's hard for me. And for that reason, I actually place Veramos at 85. It's actually, if Veramos would be a unit that you can pull early on rather than get for free, Veramos would be a very nice pull to get early on. Like, no joke. So yeah, I think like let's look at it this way. If you couldn't get Veramos for free, and with the value that Veramos had, Veramos would probably already be 90, right? It's just that you can get him that easily, and therefore he feels like he's less value. But I would say he's fairer than 85. Veramos is actually really a strong unit right now. It's kind of insane. Then we have the Polar Queen Lights Elenoa. And Elenoa is, I think, one of those units that's very overrated by everyone that doesn't have her. And everyone that does have her is like, she can be good, but she's not always that great. I would say that if you happen to have a Zerath pairing with Elenoa for arena defense is insanely good. If you don't have Zerath, Elenoa for arena defense is not that great. I would say Siege defense, not usable. TOA, definitely a nice TOA unit. Early game dungeons, not really. RTA, definitely a nice RTA unit, but does it shine that much where you can spam it all the time? I don't think so. I think you can use it from time to time, but it's still hard counted by things like Juno, Veramos. If you don't stun them, it's kind of bad. Oh, that's also a Veramos thing. Like, if Veramos, he has the issue where he wants to cycle, but the moment he's stunned, he can't cycle. If they remove that he is stunned and he doesn't cycle, if they remove that mechanic where he can still cycle even if he's stunned, Veramos would legitimately be here because he would be absolute top tier for RTA. It would really be insane. But yeah, Elenoa, I think it's good in a bunch of things. Siege offense, are there siege offenses where I could see it being used? Yeah, you could use it, for example, with like a Cassandra, and then the Cassandra goes for an insta-snipe, or like a Kali that goes for an insta-snipe. All of those insta-snipe units, I would definitely be using it in siege offense. Arena offense, you could think of a thing or two as well, but I think it's a little bit worse. I would say because she also has the PvE value. Yeah, she has like a whole bunch of places where she can be used, so I put her at 80. I think she doesn't really shine at anything very specifically, but I think she's good at quite a bunch of places except for the siege offense, siege defense. I actually might put her one up because for TOA, she's actually a very good TOA unit. Because she goes, yeah, no, she's very good for TOA as well. She's not crazy in RTA, but she's very good siege offense, TOA, and early game dungeons and all of that stuff. I definitely do think she has quite some value in there. And she will be used quite a lot for those kind of things. Is that fair? Yeah. For arena offense, I could think about arena offenses which could make her work as well. It's maybe not as good, but well, would there be options? Well, I'm thinking along the lines of like Ian, but Ian is also an LD5, so that's maybe not really fair. I'm gonna place her one down because she's also not used that much in RTA, and I think she's more of a later pick anyways. Then we have Lydia, and Lydia is, I think, one of the worst units here on the list. I would say Siege Dark Tank. She has that value, Siege Dark Tank. Arena defense, she's not great because there's just everything with just sniper. She doesn't do enough reflect damage. Her skill 2 is pretty nice against those speed teams, but she mostly struggles to get a team or like a turn against those speed teams. PvE, she's not worth anything. So yeah, I think Lydia might actually be one of the worst units. It's more of like the meta right now than her kit being really bad. But the whole meta pretty much just says like, yeah, you're not taking a turn anyway, so cool that you're reflecting, but fuck that. And that you're doing a lot of damage, cool, but you're just not taking a turn. So yeah, I would say arena defense maybe, but even for arena defense, you need very specific other units next to it, which I can't really think of right now that doesn't say, or that at least give me the opportunity not to just not sniper or something. Also, the reflect damage she does is not like the whole team, like for example the Alexandra does. That would make things a lot more dangerous and a lot better already. So I would actually say Lydia is probably, if I look at all of the units I have here, Lydia will probably be my least used unit. So I think she's fair at the 55. Builds, but I guess just quite some damage or something. She does have the mechanic that the S2 always crits when the enemy has no debuffs, but then again, you kind of want to have the enemy on speed buff, so you still want to have that crit rate, so it gets really weird. Her kit is just really weird, really bad, so Lydia gets a 55 from me. Panthers. Definitely nice unit for arena defense. Siege defense, you don't see it as much. Siege offense, definitely usable. TOA, yeah, could be. I think for like a safety mechanic in TOA, he's not too bad as well, because he has that invisibility, has the immunity, has the AoE silence, which is definitely good in TOA stages. So for safety mechanics, he's definitely up there as well. Will not really speed up the run, but it's nice. RTA, definitely a nice unit as well. Can be a trap, can be that double Nem will, could be a Vio will, could be a Vio Nem. There's a lot of options to it. Most of the time, 100 resistance, decently high accuracy because you want to land those silences. And then pretty tanky, so I would say that Panthers is pretty all-round. Where, yeah, you can put him arena defense, siege defense. Well, siege defense maybe a little bit less. PvE, maybe a little bit less, but RTA definitely good in there. He's not that much spammed, but I think he's definitely a good unit up there. I think I actually lower him one down because he's pretty good at it, but also not insanely good at all of those things. So yeah, he's just very nice at those things, but he's not insanely good. I would just say for arena defense, he might be one of best in slots for the speed lead, because the things is, if you get slightly RNG'd against the Panthers, you're instantly gonna lose your arena offense if you're bombing it, or if you're galleon cleaving it, or anything like that. So Panthers definitely has, like, I would say almost best in slot for arena defense on the speed lead slot for, yeah, I would say that. RTA wise, I wouldn't use it too much, but it's nice here and there, so I think I give it an 85. No, actually, I give it a 9. No, did I give it 90? I actually do give it a 90, because I do think that he is best in slot for arena defense on the speed lead slot. So he's the most annoying slot in there, which gives you the most RNG factor in there. And because of the RNG factor, maybe people want to not hit you anymore. So yeah, mainly for arena defense, he's up there, and for RTA. But you could also put him like to TOA and siege offense. I would definitely use him siege offense as well. Then we have Manananan, which could be a PvE god, but actually isn't really. You could use it. I would definitely use him siege offense, actually, because this thing does an insane amount of damage. If you just go for a Galleon Tiana Manananan, you have the increased cooltime mechanic with this thing, but this thing actually does an insane amount of fucking damage. So I think it's one of the better plays for Galleon Tiana out there to go for a Manananan on that. So, but besides that, PvE, he's not really in his place because he brings the dot, and that's, yeah, you just want to go for an actual kill. You don't want to go for a dot. There are PvE teams with him out there that are pretty nice, but does it make him really best in slot or anything? Not really, but since he also has the siege offense mechanic, which I think he is actually pretty good at, I think I'll place him at 70. Arena offense, you can probably also use him, like similar team, and the one reset that he does bring can actually be pretty useful as well, because you can throw that one reset at like an Abellio or something, and you can throw that one reset. You do need high accuracy for that if you actually want to land on Abellio. But yeah, you can actually throw that reset somewhere, and I think his damage is actually pretty decent. Is he somewhat underrated? Well, I would say 65, 70. I'm not sure. I feel like even for RTA, he's somewhat underrated if you bring like a lot of strippers. But would I use him in like high-end RTA? You need very specific teams to bring him high-end RTA. But it could be used. It could be used. Now I'm going to bring him down to 65. Because there's a lot of things that can go for AoE cleaves. That's true. Sylvia, absolute best in slot siege defense. One of the better siege offenses out there as well, mainly paired with like a Wusa plus something. Could be a Wusa Tessarian, could be a Wusa Sonya. I've seen people use. Sonya is absolutely a siege god. I would say 90 for that, because anywhere else she's not that great, or pretty much not used at all. It's just siege, but both offense and defense absolutely god tier. Most common build is Vio, could be Swift as a trap as well. And you just want to make it fast, high tanky, could be high resistance. You want some accuracy on it. And yeah, she's just really, really good. But then again, it's just siege. So if you don't care about siege at all, she drops down really far. If you do care slightly about siege, she's absolutely there. But since she's that good, you literally can get into like a top 4 guild by just having a Sylvia. If you have some decent runes and you care about siege, well, maybe not top 4, let's say top 20 guild. If you have a Sylvia and you knock on the door at the top 20 guild and you have some decent understanding of siege, you don't int all of your matches, they will just let you in even though you have way worse rune quality. They will literally let you in by just having a Sylvia defense, because Sylvia's just by far the best defense out there right now. Plus, it's pretty much a guaranteed offense win as well, so it's just very good on those 2 occasions. Then we have something that's also just siege, but then terrible, the Bay. You can use the Bay for TOA, it's the only ARM or AoE brander in the game, I think. But the Bay is just not great. Like, I would, if I had the Bay, I would probably use him in siege offense, but he's on the same level as Dark Monkey. You can use him if you put good runes to him in the right team, but is he gonna do anything great? Not really, might as well put any unit there. So it's really nothing special. The Bay is already, it's kind of at the same thing as the Dark Monkey has been having like 16 buffs already, units still shit, until you get that one Oliver style Laura buff where you're super OP, I guess, or never is gonna happen, I don't know. But yeah, the Bay, I would probably put it Vio something, Vio speed, crit damage, HP or some shit. Crit rate. Wadjet. Wadjet, you sometimes see it on arena defense still. Arena offense, you could maybe think about like going for some defense scaling cleave. Not really sure if it's too great if you go like Copper Bulldozer in arena offense. Might not even be that bad. If there's, let's say the defense is a Bulldozer plus, oh no, wait. Your offense is Wadjet, Bulldozer, Copper. And then +1 whatever fits. Could be a lot of things. Could even be like a Chimera or something to reset the whole bunch. And then let's say you're fighting a Vanessa, which can be bulldozed. A Camilla, which can be coppered. And then 2 other units, I don't know what. Maybe another Camilla and then something else. Because you see a lot of Vanessa, double Camilla something. If that's 4th something doesn't counter it where you cannot use the Amduit. Amduit on offense might actually be a decent thing. So, defense-wise, decent. RTA, pretty good still. Siege, not really used at all. So, I would say Wadjet currently, I would give him a 75. It's kind of okayish in RTA. It's kind of okayish in Arena and, or well, just in Arena. PvE wouldn't really use him all too much. Might be a safety mechanic in TOA, but yeah, how many of those do you need? Yeah, I would say just 75 for Wadjet for me. He's not bad per se, but he's also not really the greatest anymore. Isis, TOA, hell, really good. Arena offense, Arena offense could be good, but landing all of those Oblivions is mostly a pain in the ass. She really needs a buff to guarantee land the Oblivion. Like, to be honest, I think everyone would agree if they remove the silence and guaranteed land Oblivion. All they need. Like, fuck the silence, just give me guaranteed Oblivion. She would be definitely like way up here. She has a lot more mechanics, good stuff to it. But since she has like that 15% check and you're like, fuck that. It's not really that great. Same thing for Arena offense, Siege offense, RTA. All of those things she can kind of work. But she's not really that great. She also has the TOA value, so for that reason she's 70 for me. Neftis, and I would say Neftis goes straight to 100. I don't really have to explain too much about that. Early game, Goddess, TOA, Goddess, Siege offense, Goddess, Arena offense, Goddess, RTA, very good still. It's not the best in the meta she's have been in ever, but she's just, Neftis is the most all-round unit in the game. And Neftis is, I would say, one of the few units that's used in all content and is actually good at all content, because you can put Neftis to siege defense, arena defense. You can place Neftis everywhere. In RTA, it's still very good. Don't get me wrong. It's not. She was better at previous metas, I would say, but she's still very good in that as well. So yeah, Neftis is 100% 100 for me. Most common builds are violent. You can actually make it swift if your whole team is super fast, or you can make it despair, which is also pretty nice. You could go for a very tanky high res one. Personally, I don't really like that. I like to have my Neftis on some damage. You can also make it a Sonya counter, that's also an option. So there's a whole bunch of options for the Neftis build as well there. Just keep in mind, you need 0 accuracy. That's all you want to go for, because the passive already fixed that. Oberon. Oberon definitely did take a hard hit when Shizuka was nerfed. Oberon was very good with like a combination of Shizuka, maybe even a Seimei in that team. Nowadays, it's kind of like not that great. And then they also released the Fire Cassandra buff, which kind of does an Oberon thing, but then has a surviving mechanic in there when you double Nem Will. It's like the perfect double Nem Will, which Oberon is on the same build. I would still build an Oberon, I guess. It has the interesting mechanic that if you snipe something, you get the invisibility and then you can give Ventilate to something. But it's no longer as good of a pair with like the Shizuka in there. So would say it's definitely not a bad pick in RTA 5th pick. I would say Siege Offense can definitely make it work. They gave him the buff finally to give crit rate lead instead, or crit rate awakening rather than resistance awakening. So he's a lot easier to build to put enough damage on him. Arena offense would probably not really use him. TOA kind of stuff. Dungeons early game wouldn't really use him. So he's just RTA, but I would say he's just RTA and then just a 5th pick and not even that great at it. So I would say he's probably a 70 for that reason. If there was no Fire Cassandra, he would probably be 1 up. But since there's Fire Cassandra, it's kind of that 1 down on the 70. Most common build, as I mentioned, is the double Nem Will. Make sure he's still fast enough, a little bit tanky enough, but also what's the question? What is enough? Like, do you Nem enough? Do you instantly die? That kind of stuff. It's always kind of weird. And then you want to go 100 crit rate and a lot of damage for the rest of that. Then we have Nyx. Nyx is also in kind of a weird spot, I would say, for inter-server defenses. It feels sometimes like, oh, it's a good unit, but then again, people just use Tetra against it and this whole passive is nullified. The S2 doesn't do enough, the S1 doesn't do enough, so the unit is just not that great, I would say. I would say in arena defense does kind of have its place there because some people that plays like Galleons or Bombs, they don't really want to hit it. But then you have a unit like the Dark Madeline Cookie, also known as Truffle, that has a double hit armor break. Yeah, then this passive is probably not going to activate. Like if it activated once, it's not going to activate. The other time you still get armor broken. So yeah, this unit is just by all means not that great. Siege offense wouldn't use it. It's just arena defense and RTA it has a bad spot it as well. So Nyx gets a 65 from me. I think I would still place it on defense. I think it's still one of the arena defense units that's pretty annoying. If you pair it, for example, with like double Camilla and a Vanessa or something, you can definitely be slow cleared, but people are not really going to be bombing that, which is normally like a counter to the double Camilla. So those kind of things could be a thing, but yeah, besides that, I don't think it's really great. Tian Lang, and Tian Lang is a very easy straight to 100. Tian Lang is not great for anything PvE related, but is an absolute god anything PvP related. I would say arena offense, maybe not, but arena offense, you could even still do it. Siege offense, I would probably just use it because it's, if I had a Tian Lang, my Tian Lang would be amazing ruined for siege defense, that it would be good enough for siege offense no matter what. RTA, absolute god counter pick, strongest counter pick in game, definitely still there. I would say Laura's strongest normal pick, but Tian Lang is absolutely strongest counter pick in game, so for that reason he goes straight to 100, even though he's not good at early game or TOA or that kind of stuff. The moment you go into anything PvP related, he's absolutely really good. If you start going for arena defense, it's absolutely god tier in arena defense. It's going to boost you a few ranks, which is going to give you extra LDs these days. So I would say that Tian Lang might have been here for me, but since we have the change in arena, where arena is going to give you more, LD scrolls, I feel like that arena defense has a bit more value in that. And I definitely see that in Tian Lang is going to boost you 1 or 2 ranks. Like, if you're not already in like G1 plus, just getting a Tian Lang is going to boost you up a few ranks because people just do not want to hit you if you have a Tian Lang. And that already boosts your win rate or your potential to climb in arena by so much that he's so good. He's absolutely best arena defense unit in the game still. Plus, he's one of the best RTA units in the game. Plus, he's very good in siege defense. So, definitely 100 for me on the Tian Lang. Most common builds are Vio. However, if you want to make it a trap for arena defense, build your Tian Lang on Swift. Because a lot of people think like, okay, if I make my Tiana 210, then my next unit is like 205. And then they won't, like the Tian Lang won't cut. But if your Tian Lang is actually Swift and your Tian Lang is, let's say, 200 or 210, Tiana moves, Tian Lang moves. And they're like, fuck. So yeah, Tian Lang is definitely a solid unit for that. Could be Vio, could be Despair, could be Swift. A lot of possibilities on that unit. For RTA, you definitely see him currently more on like high damage sets rather than high accuracy sets. So that's an interesting take as well. Tier lane, 100 for me. Miying, I see it from time to time on Siege defense. I fought one today actually, but against my light pony it did absolutely no damage. Like, the damage was negative, but also I have a minus 26 on dark, that kind of helps. But, talking about this unit, where would I actually use it? I think it's low-key underrated for RTA. I would place it as a 5th pick in RTA, probably as a Leo counter. You can take a lot of damage on this unit. Plus he has the multi-hit, plus he has multi-hit armor break on S1, which is always a really good thing out there. The S2 is nice, but I would say for the S2 that he has, I would almost say that he's almost fair to get like an additional turn if he goes for the S2 or some shit. I don't know, that's just what I think. Because he can use a little bit more to be stronger. Siege defense, he is nice, but you have to pair him with something that's an RNG armor break. Otherwise, he's just gonna tumble all of the damage into a light tank, and he's not gonna do all too much. So, I would say he's somewhat underrated for RTA. PvE stuff, well, if you make a full dark team, if you happen to have a lot of dark LD5s that are good on Elunia, it could be an Elunia team actually, because I think he's really good at that shit. But besides that, I think he's just good. Siege offense, would always use him. Arena defense, offense, not. RTA, would use him here and there. So, yeah, I would say that Siege offense mainly and RTA as a Leo counter. So, kind of on like the Oberon spot, like good here and there, but not really the best of it. Celia. Celia is definitely good for arena defense. Siege defense you also see here. Most cases, well, Swift is good, but Vio is also definitely a good build on her because people always kind of fear that she's on Swift, so they don't really go speed checking against. Very high base speed unit, so definitely nice for that. RTA could be used here and there. I'm not too big a fan of it, especially because we have like those Junos out there right now, Heigangs out there. Those units just kind of tend to hard count it. And you would have to build like a very specific team around it. If you do, it could be good, but without it, it's not really that great. Interesting fact is though that their skill 1 can do a lot of damage because her S1 is scaling from speed. She has a lot of speed by herself. If you just put a crit rate slot 4 to her, she's already going to do a lot of damage on that S1. She does need higher activation rates on that S2 because it's possible to do the, whatever it's called, like Nightmare Harmony on the S2. And then she decides like, yeah, there's just a few dots, but I'm not going to sleep anyone. Fuck that shit. So yeah, the activation rate on her could be a little bit higher, but arena defense, siege defense, PvE related wouldn't really use it too much. So I think she gets, did she get a 75 from me? Might feel a little high, but I do think that for arena defense, it's one of those units, if you have her on arena defense, it definitely will do pretty well as well. It's also one of those, a lot of the slow clear defenses out there kind of depend on a lot of buffs. So they go either immunities, defense buffs, those kind of things. She kind of makes that annoying to fight as well. Especially if she happened to be on fire, she can just sleep like the whole team left and right. So I would say the defense and also siege defense, she's definitely a good siege defense unit out there. Like mostly paired with like Kakano and then something else. It is kind of annoying to fight, and the main thing that you want to counter Kakano with is a Windy. But Windy just makes it that everything is slept all the time. So there are a few ways that you can actually make Celia pretty worth it on that. Would I say, well, she has 2 places on defense where she's really good. Offense, I wouldn't really place it too much. You could maybe place a siege offense if you have a very good one rune, but I feel like she doesn't really do too much and it's 2 RNG, but 2 RNG is good for siege defense. So she get the siege defense value. RTA a little bit value too, but not really too great. So I would say 75 for her. No, I actually boosted to 80 because for Siege and Arena, she's actually on defense pretty good for both of them. So I give Celia an 80, which is maybe a little bit higher than people expect, but I'm kind of like in between ranks on those two, but I'm actually gonna lean towards 80 because... No, actually I'm gonna lean towards... No, I give her 75 because in offense she's not great. It's just defense, it's not an offense. Like, if it was an offense guaranteed win, then it would be a lot better. But it's in offense, it's not really great. RTA not really great. So it's just defense. But she does really good at defense. Then with Eleanor, Light Pony, unit that I picked up pretty recently. I would say for, well, TOA Hell, you can actually use it instead of Amelia. I think it's slightly bit better than Amelia and TOA Hell. Mainly because you have the anti-crit, and the anti-crit helps you to play against those things that have like the 200% crit damage stage. It helps a little bit like that, but it's still kind of betting on RNG. It's not always the greatest. I would say it's pretty solid for siege offense. I actually, when I pulled it, I was like, is it not just an Amelia way better? Well, I feel like her little bit of healing, which I still think should be more than what she does because it feels really low for the healing still. If she does a little bit more healing, she's definitely good in siege offense. But even now, I like to use her over Amelia, but I also just like to use my LD, so I would just force it even if it was 10 times worse than Amelia. But yeah, I would say siege offense pretty nice, but it's just that. Siege offense pretty nice. RTA sometimes as a last pick, but not really that great as well. So I think it's kind of on like similar spot as I picked this unit. Like it can be decent here and there. It's absolutely not the worst unit out there, but it's also not super great. Vivachel. Vivachel is a siege insta-win if you play it right with Leos. It could be a pretty strong, well, siege defense. We have seen it here and there, but it never really shined. The AI is kind of weird and dumb on her. But I do see her a lot more in RTA as well. In RTA, you definitely do see her quite some being used. And that is mainly because people think like, oh, it's always a Leo Vivachel. But the thing is, you don't really have to go Leo Vivachel because Vivachel is still, the S1 is same as Celia. It can hit pretty hard. The healing on the skill 2 is pretty nice. But the skill 3 can always be deadly. Like, you don't have to use skill 3 right at the start. The danger is there that you will do it. However, you can also just decide to do it way later when the times are way better. She does have a struggle against like all of her kind of units or being insta-sniped by Sonya. You could build her high defense, so you can counter Sonya. That's actually not that much of an issue. But she has issues against like Resettas, Sagar, Oliver, CPs, those kind of units. So in RTA, she is a little bit worse for that. Defense-wise, she's not really used anywhere specifically. So it's just RTA. She's pretty good at it, but not insanely good. And Siege offense, I would say guaranteed win in Siege offense if you play it right. So definitely a nice unit for that. Siege defense, I would maybe try to use it, but I think it's more of like a backline-ish unit than anything. So Vivachel gets an 80 from me. It can be Swift on... Well, it could be Swift or Vio, most likely with Will. And then speed, crit rate, and HP, or you want to go full tank route. That is also an option. Alexandra, decent last pick in RTA. Siege offense, I think it's a good win in Siege offense. Arena defense, it's still a good defense unit. It's way better than Lydia for arena defense. And the main reason for that is that she would go for reflecting on the whole team. And if you happen to have those high reflect things, you could actually kill like a whole squishy team with just an Alexandra being hit pretty hard. So yeah, Alexandra, if you build it very high on the HP, fun thing about Alexandra, you want to build very high HP and very low defense. That makes it that they do more damage, so you reflect more, so you do more damage. It's kind of funny. She also has the skill for, or you want to have a slot for crit damage because her skill 2, her skill 2 in human form actually goes always critting, which does make it pretty interesting. It has a lot of debuffs, so definitely for RTA, good last year pick. I would say arena defense is definitely high up there. So for arena defense, I would say that the unit is very valuable. Is it best in slots? I'm not sure. It's just bad against bombers, but bombers are high RNG as well. So I would say Alexandra is probably one of the better arena defenses out there. I think I'm one down her on 70, and the big issue is her AI. If her AI was actually better to go for proper cycling of going human form, using S2, going back to pony, using going back to human, like if she had that proper cycling, she would definitely be 75, maybe even higher. But since she often goes to human form, throws an S1, and then stands there like, I did my shit. Like, yeah, she's 70. Like, I can't argue for higher than that. You kind of have to play her in offense to be good. We mentioned Ragdoll as a good siege defense unit, or a siege tank on Dark. Alexandra is the best Dark tank, I would say. Like, unless you want to count in like Clyde or Diaz for like their specific counters. But if you want a pure tank, this thing can eat a lot of damage. So Alexandra is definitely good for siege offense as well. RTA, just the last pick, so Alexandra gets 70 for me. I would say either Despair or Vio. You probably want to go Will. And you want to go crit damage on the slot 4, but you don't need that much crit rate. Leona. Leona is bad in PvE stuff, bad in siege offense, defense, bad in arena offense, defense, and not that great in RTA right now. Would I say that Leona is one of the worst units in the game right now? I would actually say so. I really think she's... Like, I literally think that these units are better than Leona right now, and hear me out on that one. Leona is literally a oracle with additional damage artifacts can break through the shield of Leona at some point. Like if you play RTA and at the very late state of the match, you can literally break that shield by just like additional damage artifacts. She really is bad against additional damage artifacts. Then you also have units in the meta such as Miles. Miles just threads through this unit. If you happen to still play Dominic, Dominic just threads through this unit. Like, there's a lot of units. All of the ignored defense units, fire cast, everything that she was supposed to do as like a late game bruiser turn 2, whatever. Everyone just snipes and shreds her. Like, even just a Bolric like shreds her. So I really feel like Leona doesn't really have a spot. I would use it for siege offense. I would arguably say a good siege offense tank. So yeah, let's give her, I would at least use her. Siege offense, I would use this thing, I can't even use siege offense. So this is the only unit I can't use anywhere because I just think it's absolutely garbage. But this one gets the 1-up for just being useful in siege offense, but that's literally it. But yeah, unit is not great. Also this unit, yeah, just high defense, high crit rate, crit damage, and probably Vio, Vampire, or something along that line. We'll probably make it a Vampire if I go siege offense, but Vio is also okay. Volantis, we see it from time to time on arena defense, on siege defense. You see it sometimes. I think in lower ranks it's okay, but it is pretty hard counted by, for example, a Varamos Juno or something like that. RTA pretty strong. I would also say for TOA, this is definitely a nice TOA unit. It has the dots, it has the provokes, it has like a whole bunch of annoying stuff. So definitely out there. Most common build is Despair, Despair Will. I would give Volantis probably an 85. Because I wouldn't really say it's good in siege defense. I would say it's pretty good in RTA, but also not insanely good because there's a whole bunch of things that just make his life a miserable thing, like Hagang, Junos, a few other things like that. So he's definitely good, but it's not the most spammed unit out there. I wouldn't really use it in arena offense, siege offense. PvE value is kind of there, but I think like that 85 is a fair spot for him. And siege defense, not arena defense, it's a maybe. Patar or Pater or whatever this thing is actually called, I call it Patar. Whether you agree or not, it's Patar. I would say just RTA. I have seen some on arena defense, but I don't think it's that great because arena defense is not guaranteed to be stripped. So for that reason, it feels a little bit worse like that. RTA, I think he's pretty nice. A lot of people tend to build him Vio. I think he might actually be better on Swift. Like, the only issue with Swift is that you might outspeed the enemy, which is something you don't want. But you also don't want to be that much slower than the enemy that you get the boost, but you don't boost enough. So maybe like a sweet spot of Swift, like plus 195 or 200 or something. If you don't have speed lead, it's like probably 200 to 205. If you happen to have speed lead, it's probably 190-ish. So yeah, on Swift, that's kind of worth it. Would you throw that kind of set on Vio at it? I don't think so. So that's kind of the thing, like, yeah, his prop from S3 into S2 is pretty decent because then he's back in the right passive. So the human form is like, or the druid form is the best passive. The bear form is a little bit worse. But it has some usage there. I would say from siege offense, would definitely see some places where I could use him as siege offense against like Claras and that kind of stuff. So not too bad of a unit. Siege defense, wouldn't really use him. Arena defense could be used here and there. RTA could be used here and there, but I think he's fine at 75. It's not really too great at the things, but I think he can be pretty annoying, especially last picks. And siege offense, I can see him like pretty much be a guaranteed victory, because you do still see a lot of Claras on siege defense as well. Gelnir, siege defense unit. I see quite some people use him as siege offense. Siege offense is a guaranteed victory as well, because siege offense, him together with a Windy and then like a Camilla, you pretty much, you can't lose. You need like the destroy on your units, but you pretty much can't lose. You get so freaking much healing in, you can't lose unless they have heal block or just snipe you instantly. So definitely very good insta winner on siege offense. Very good on siege defense. Siege defense, most common team is probably still twins, like the Deva and the Martina or something. You have to build them fast. But they're pretty decent. Could even go for like a Zenobia something, but there's definitely options, or like Zenobia with the other one, the dark one, Dark Chakram, forgot the name. But Belita, so? I think so. But yeah, definitely options for siege offense, siege defense. Arena defense, could use it. It's not the greatest, I think, but it's kind of there. Some people do tend to struggle with it if they don't go for like an insta-clear. And it's definitely a good stall. That's definitely out there. For inter-server even, it could be nice stalls, and then other units could kind of kill your team. Actually, my only lose I had against inter-server in this whole season right now is against the Geldnir Nigong with a Clara and a Dominic, and then the Clara armor broke me, and I was trying to kill the Dominic over and over, but there was so much healing, and then the Dominic started proccing on an armor break from Clara, and I died. So that was actually a pretty interesting team, because there was that much healing from the Nigong and from the Geldnir, and then every time also the revive from the Nigong, that it was pretty hard to kill anything. So Geldnir could be interesting, and like not maybe specifically that team, but something similar that could be annoying for something along those lines. Yeah, and Siege offense, just guaranteed victory in Siege offense always has some value to me. I would say it's not on like Sylvia level that is absolutely god tier on Siege, but it's pretty high up there. However, the possibilities for Siege offense combination or Siege defense combinations are a little bit less. Sylvia has a lot of combinations that are good. Geldnir has just a few combinations and they're less good, I would say. But they're still definitely high up there. RTA-wise, I would say that RTA-wise is not really worth too much. It was worth a little bit at the time where we had a meta where it's very heavy on the Masha. And Masha every turn kept giving buffs to Geldnir. Same thing for Junos. And people didn't really know how to counter Juno or Geldnirs, because Geldnir, the moment he has stacks, you want to hit something else. And the moment that he has no stacks, you hit the unit you want to kill. And therefore, the unit you want to kill is never going to get healed, because you decide who Geldnir is going to heal. And the moment you have that mindset, like Geldnir doesn't choose who he heals, you decide who Geldnir heals. And if you keep that mindset, Geldnir is pretty easy to counter as well. So you have to keep those kind of things in mind. So I would say Geldnir is probably a fair 75 for me. Or would I one-up that? It does have the one-up value compared to like a Celia, I would say. So, well, it's just Siege and 0 PvE mechanics in there. No, I would say Geldnir 75 is fine. It's fine. Like, it's not Sylvia. Sylvia's so much higher just because it's just offense-wise guaranteed victory. Well, he's offense-wise guaranteed victory as well. But defense, a lot of options. Like, just this unit is going to get you in any top guild, most likely. Geldnir, they'd be happy with it if you have it. Same for Celia, they'd be happy with it if you have it. It's definitely good. It's definitely going to be used. But Sylvia's like, you're welcome. No matter what, welcome. Hertite is just good for the Rift Beasts, which are kind of nerfed to a point where it's not really mattering too much. Same for R5. So early game value, it's there. Anything afterwards, not really that great. You could put him on Siege defense, but the Siege defense is that he's used to be with, which was like the Vigor Triana. It's kind of outdated as well. People kind of know how to counter it. Siege offense, I could definitely see him being used Siege offense. I would definitely use him Siege offense. But I think it's just that. So I give Hertite a 70 just because Siege offense, you can place him in like a creative Siege defense that maybe people haven't seen, and then it could take like a random victory. But you have to be creative on that one. He does eat quite some stats as well, because you want a lot of stats on him in general, because you want to have that crit rate, the crit damage, the attack, HP, resistance. You can max his resistance. He's pretty stat hungry on that kind of stuff. So, but I think that he's nice on that. I would definitely always Fire Will him though. Bella on an overall tier list. Bella is always one of those units that a lot of people complain about me placing it too high in a G3 RTA tier list. However, G3 people don't just have very good runes, they have very good artifacts. And Bella is the #1 unit that makes or breaks by artifacts. Because she has that many multi-hits, and her damage, you can put crit rate slot 4. Crit rate slot 4, the only reason that crit rate slot 4 is good on her is because crit rate slot 4 gives you the opportunity to have a rune with speed, attack, defense, and HP. Like having those 4 stats in on one rune that is a slot 4 makes the only reason that crit rate slot 4 is good on her, because you just want to have those other 4 stats. Like crit rate slot 4 is cool and all. Like the first hit that you do on that cannon hit on an armor break, that one is nice with a crit rate. But besides that, all of those multi-hits, you want to have a lot of additional damage artifacts. Attack, speed, HP, all of them, good combination of them. She does a lot and a lot of damage. However, how well does she do in the overall tier list? PV, not worth it all. Siege defense, she's not that bad in Siege defense. I've seen her used in Siege defense a bunch of times, mainly together with like Miang Keeklets, and then you have to make sure it's not a Lucian cleave, so you have to build like the Keeklet fast, or you have to build it high tank, which she's kind of hard to make high tank. RTA, insanely good, but you do need those good runes. And then I would say for siege offense, you could use it in a bruiser fight, but it's not really the most recommended. Arena defense offense, not really the most recommended. So I would say I place it at 80. So it's mainly siege defense, siege offense, and then RTA being very good. But I would say that these units are... Well, would I say that? No, I'm actually going to place it one up. Bella goes 85 for me. But keep in mind, Bella is only 85 if you have good artifacts. If you do, like, I don't even care about your good runes. If you have good artifacts, Bella's 85. If you have shit artifacts, Bella's 75. She's really the most unit hit or miss by good artifacts. And what do I mean with good artifacts? You have like at least both sides together, you have like 24 to 30% additional damage on attack, and then like 150 on speed or something like that. I just name some numbers, whatever. You need a good combination of, let's say, high triple rolls or 3 high rolls. You don't even need a legendary. You need 3 high rolls in attack, speed, and HP. If you have one artifact that has like 3 high rolls, 1 in each on both sides, you're good. If you have artifacts that just have like 1.5 roll in 1, yeah, no, you're bad. Also, what's very good is saying like, okay, oh, I have an artifact that's like 150 speed, but then nothing else next to it. Those are decent because you can still put like 6 attack next to it. But if you say like, oh, I have 120 and then a 5 attack next to it, that's not much. Then you'd rather have like an artifact that has like a 110, a 0.3 on the HP, and then a 5 on the attack. That artifact is gonna do way more than you just going purely on speed. So yeah, I think I put her in the middle for that reason, because you have like the deviation. Good artifacts, 85, average 80, bad artifacts, 75 or maybe even less. So I'm gonna put Bella on 80 for that reason. That's such a unit that always people ask, like, why is it so high? Mine is really shit. Yeah, go farm artifacts. Like I've been making so many videos on like how to farm artifacts, and those videos are not being watched because people are like, fuck artifacts, I want quad speeds. You're not gonna get quad speeds. Getting good artifacts is the same thing as getting like a 20 speed rune, like 20 base speed rune. 20 base speed rune equals to like a good artifact. That's a way upgrade for you. Is 20 base speed and a good upgrade for you? No. Get artifacts. Just 1 month. You're done. Okay. My rant about artifacts is over. Bella on 80. Most common build. Vio. Vio Will is the most common thing. Vio Nemesis could be a thing, but I would say Vio Will in most cases. Very fast. High attack. Speed attack is my favorite build. But you can also go speed crit rate attack, speed crit rate HP, speed attack HP, something along those lines. As long as you get the most amount of efficient stats in that unit, where you have a little bit of accuracy, don't focus on crit damage, don't focus on resistance, and any of the other stats as high as fucking possible. Lucifer! Oh man, this tier list is literally going to be... Wait, this tier list is longer than the normal Net 5 tier list, because I explained way more about units and where to use them. Oh, okay, fair enough. Because I'm already at 133 minutes. Fuck! Lucifer, where do we place Lucifer? Lucifer is PvE god, but PvE god to the certain extent where we actually have all meta dungeon teams right now, which are probably faster than just a Lucifer in those teams. So you would need something else next to the Lucifer to make Lucifer very good. Once again, as mentioned before, if you have Eludia Lucifer, you have pretty much the strongest offense in the game. That really, these two excel really well on each other. I would say Lucifer can be used for siege offense. I've seen some people use Lucifer in siege offense. I'm not entirely sure what offenses they used again. But there were some good Lucifer siege offenses. I just really don't remember what it was. Did they go like Lucifer, Leo, and then Illusion or some shit? I don't remember. But there were some good offense for Lucifer as well. Arena offense, really god tier. Siege offense, pretty good as well. RTA, I would say that if you build a Lucifer that is a counter to a Leo, it might be a pretty strong thing as well. So I'm not sure like how good that works, but I think it's pretty strong. Plus, you can actually do this weird thing on Lucifer, his S2. Let me double check. I do know that Mephisto has the S2, which gives an attack bar boost. You could technically make a Lucifer fast as a Leo counter. So even if the passive doesn't hit, your Lucifer still moves and you can boost up the whole attack bar of everyone. Does that work like that? Yeah, he recovers the attack bar. Why does it recover and not boost the attack bar of allies with 20% afterwards? So yeah, there are a few options for Lucifer to even use him in RTA. It's not used as much, but it's pretty interesting. And I can see some arena defense. You have like the Leo, Lucifer arena defense. And I would say people figured it out with like double Nem will on the Megans and that kind of stuff. But it is still an option that you could say like, okay, I still go for that one. It can do pretty well. And in RTA, there are also some cleaves where Lucifer is used, and if people just draft wrong to it, they're still gonna lose. So Lucifer is actually, I'm gonna place Lucifer at 80. No, I'm gonna place Lucifer at 80. I would say because also PvE, it does lower the rune requirements a lot. So actually, I'm gonna one-up Lucifer for that reason. Because I would say that with the current meta PvE teams that we have, Lucifer is not needed. But to get fast teams with lower rune requirements, Lucifer is insanely good. So no, I'm actually gonna Lucifer 90 for that reason. Because Lucifer is PvE god. And then it's not as good as Seraph. Because Seraph is just, it enables things that no other units do. Whereas Lucifer can kind of, yeah, it's somewhat on that line. But it's also still good siege offense, arena offense. RTA usable, so Lucifer gets some 90 from me. Now we have its brother, Beelzebub, which is one of the units, siege defense kind of there, but it's often pretty easily countered as well by a Rocky or just something else. I would try to put it on defense, it's not really great. RTA also has too many issues with not getting a full attack bar. This unit needs to get an additional or like an instant turn the moment he's back. Same as his brother Belial. But Beelzebub, for some reason, is like, nope, I get 100% attack bar, and then I need those artifacts for attack bar increasing on revive, which you cannot even get anymore. Yeah, that's just shite. That is just absolutely shite. So, yeah, I would probably use him siege offense, siege defense, maybe a 5th pick in RTA, and that's about it. But I think he does not great at neither of those things. So, Beelzebub is 65 for me. I would build him on Vio Will, most likely, and then very high damage. Narsha. Narsha is still siege defense unit. You could make it as a trap on Swift as a arena defense unit as well. Same thing in siege. Like you could make it as a trap on Swift. It's kind of interesting as well in the first place. RTA used here and there, but kind of struggles in the current meta where there's already so many things you want to Leo. So yeah, she just adds another one to the table. Plus she's easily sniped out by a whole bunch of units. She also has the big issue of landing her stuff, and her armor break just being one turn. So she cannot really set up for other units that well. So I would, with that all combined, I would say Narsha 75 for me. She's also very stat hungry. That's also definitely an issue. No, actually, I'm gonna make her 80 because I would say Narsha on defense, siege defense specifically, is still pretty good. It's kind of on the same level as a Bella on defense. Like both of them on defense are pretty good. RTA wise, I would say Bella is better than Narsha for sure. But she also has some value in arena defense. Like you can place her in arena defense and it can do okay. Her biggest issue is just like if you place her anywhere defense, you're probably gonna get Leo. So if you make a Leo cleave out of that, it could be something good again. Or another Leo cleave, a Leo counter by everything having slow. It could be a counter to that again. But she's nice, but she has a lot of issues in her kit though. Sienna, I would say siege defense here and there. Arena offense, there's way better options like Poseidon out there. She mainly misses that her S3 damage is pretty low. It doesn't provide... it does provide the silence right now, but it's a 50%. Like, fuck 50% silence. You can't depend on that shit. So it's not really that great. Siege defense, not really that great, but can be used here and there. RTA can be used, but like the people that use her are saying like, oh yeah, she's good. Yeah, you use her because you got like a Tian Lang, a Nephthys, a Laura, and all of the other good shit that is like the perfect setup for her. Then any unit would do good. Like a Poseidon would do good. Like Theor would do exceptionally good. Like any of those units would do good. You don't really need a Sienna for that. So yeah, Sienna for me, by honesty, is still like, yeah, I think I give it 1-up because you can place it at a few places. You can also place it in TOA. But then again, in TOA, there's also better units. Like, so once again, a CP does more in TOA. A Poseidon does more in TOA. A Zyros does more in TOA. So, yeah, she does have her usability where you can use her everywhere a bit. But also, every placement where you have that she can be used, you have replacements that probably do better and they're normal elemental units. So she's not bad per se. She's not really great. Most common builds are, I would say, either Swift Will or Vio Will, high crit rate, high accuracy, high damage. But still, our S3 damage is somewhat lackluster. S2 damage is not too bad, though. Hanwoo. I would say Hanwoo is something that I would only pair with Leo myself, because Hanwoo is hard to get good damage on. So what would be a common draft that I would use with Leo in Arena Offense, for example? Arena Offense, I would go like Gemini, Leo, and then a... Gemini, Leo, and then an attack buffer or so, like a Megan or anything like that. Or you go... you can also do the same thing, but then with a Dova. I think Dova would probably be the best way. So Gemini, Dova, Leo, and then Hanwoo. I think that would be the best offense for that. And that's the only way that you can put enough damage to Hanwoo, because if you have to make him like plus 140 speed to pair into a Tiana, he's gonna do too little damage, but his passive is very good for arena offense. I would say best in slot right now because of the Camilla meta, and is one of the few units that actually just smashes through Camilla meta very badly, so for that reason it's very good. Arena or Siege offense can be used, but it feels once again kind of tricky, like do you do enough damage? If you happen to have good enough runes to do enough damage, it's definitely up there. But I would say it gets me to a 70? Yeah, I would say so, 70. I feel like Grogan is better than Hanwoo, and not per se like a one-to-one fight on who does more damage, who has like better potential to clear an arena offense. It's more that Grogan can be used also for his skill 2 the moment things go wrong. Like if you miss armor breaks, sure you can scroll trap something, but I think you're kind of like you're gonna get screwed anyway at some point. So yeah, I would probably still use it like a Tiana, Galleon, Hanwoo, but you would need really crazy runes to make that work. So for that reason, this, and I would say if you check about the two, which one would fit earlier in RTA, I would say Grogan has more chance to be in RTA because of the S2 stun, and Hanwoo I would definitely not use in RTA. That's a unit that I think has a really bad spot at. So Hanwoo, super nice arena offense, but it's just arena offense. On Siege it already gets somewhat iffy, where I would say like might as well just use a Poseidon and then go for pushbacks or something, but could be me. Now actually, well, there's a lot of passives you can deny on that as well. If you're fighting a team that's very tanky, can you do enough damage? I really feel like people lack the damage. Well, I never ruined a Hanwoo myself on my account. Like, I think a Hanwoo on my account would do a lot of damage. Hanwoo on a lot of people that I played on, they're like C2, C3 level, and they're like, yeah, my Hanwoo just does like 30k on like a tanky team. That's not enough. You need to deal like 50, 60, but is that doable on Hanwoo? On Grogan, definitely doable. On Hanwoo, I'm not sure. So Hanwoo gets back to that 70 for me on that reason. 100 crit rate, very high damage. Probably will if you want to play it with a Leo. Mukwo on the other hand. Mukwo is, I think, very nice if you have a Han. If you do not have a Han, he really drops in rating quite some. If I had a Han, I would definitely use it together with like a Han, Mukwo, and then something dark in Siege offense. RTA, pretty much similar thing with Han and Mukwo. But if you don't happen to have Han, Mukwo really drops down, where I would say Mukwo without Han is probably like legit here for me. Like I don't really feel like the unit is that great. But Mukwo with a Han is probably like 80 tier or like 75 tier for me. So I'm gonna place it in the middle for that reason, because it's too dependent on having this one specific unit, which makes it really good, whereas this unit is already really good, right? So that's Mukwo 70. Most common build is Despair, high accuracy on it, but anywhere on defense wouldn't really use the unit, because it's gonna do a threat state, and then your Tiana moves and Tiana removes everything. Like, ooh, who cares? Like, yeah, maybe if a Despair stun, like, yeah, just make your Tiana fast enough, and then a Despair Mukwo is not gonna outspeed you. So yeah, I don't really feel Mukwo too much. Might be undervaluing. Talisman. Talisman is one of those units, if you happen to have Neftis, if you happen to have Maximilian, Talisman is absolutely a god tier in Siege offense and arena offense. RTA still wouldn't use him, but without like I would say if you have Neftis, Talisman becomes like 90 tier easily. Or yeah, Neftis or Maximilian, one of those two you would need. Neftis is probably better. But if you don't have Talisman, or if you don't have Neftis, then I would say Talisman is probably 70. You can do some creative offense with like Gemini and stuff, but Neftis is just so much better. Like Tiana, Neftis, Talisman is probably the best Siege offense out there that can do a lot of damage. If you talk about best arena offense out there, Neftis, Talisman, Kabila, Tiana is probably the best offense in the game. It can do so much damage because this unit has the self-attack buff, and for that reason can do a lot of damage. Plus, if he kills something, he is gonna get another turn. Plus, he ignores damage mitigation effects. and he gets attack buff, and he gets crit buff. So the S3 is super loaded, but you actually have to land properly on that S3. Even if I didn't have Nephthys, I would still do some shit with Gemini, because Gemini these days, you can give buffs to Gemini and then still have this thing moving. So you can actually Gemini, Kabila, and then this thing. The thing is, you kind of want Tiana and the Nephthys for the guaranteed landing of your shit. So I would say I give Talisman an 80 for that reason. I think Talisman is somewhat undervalued. It's you can place it in PvE stuff, probably not as great there. RTA, you could make a cleave with it, probably not that great there as well. But I would definitely say that it's, for offense-wise, one of the better options out there, because there's not too many units that have that much loaded of a kit on the skill 3 of doing so many things at the same time. Really think it's a good unit. I don't see too many guildies use this stuff, but I think they should use it more if they have it. Or maybe it's doing too little damage that I overvalue him. I don't know. But maybe I'm slightly biased because I have the Nephthys. But for Nephthys, he's definitely there. Without Nephthys, he's probably here. So I'm kind of gonna place it in the middle, because Gemini, you can still do the shit with Gemini, I think. And then high damage on him, that's the main thing. 70 crit rate, and that's all you need. Van Cleef, on the other hand, I think Van Cleef is still the one that should have the 24 speed lead rather than the more, but that is me. Right now, he just has too much issues missing his things. You can put like a lot of additional damage artifacts to him, and that kind of works, and with that he can do quite some stuff. But he also has the wrong skill 2, right? I would say that the skill 2 of the strip fits him a lot better than it would fit the Talisman. Wait, let me double check about that. I'm pretty sure you have... Yeah, he has the Iron Uppercut for S2. This thing doesn't need Iron Uppercut for S2. I would really rather have... well, I would say the S2 that he has, which is the more S2, is definitely better than the Iron Uppercut. But it would be very nice if this thing had the Iron Uppercut and this thing had the AoE Strip. That would make this unit a lot more interesting. Because then you can decide, like, okay, do I want an AoE Strip right now? Or do I want to go for the AoE Stun right now? Depending on, do the enemies already have, like, debuffs or not? So, yeah, I think he's just bad for that reason. He's usable, but he's bad. Too much RNG to this unit, so he gets a 65 from me. I would still use him probably, Despair something. I think he's better than these shitters, but he's not really great. But yeah, Despair, high accuracy, and then I guess additional damage artifacts. Well, the additional damage artifacts also just make sense for his S3, and it doesn't really make sense for his S2, which is also sad. Once again, if you had the other S2, it would make so much more sense to just go high attack on it, additional damage artifacts, that kind of shit, and he would do a lot of stuff. But yeah, I think I would still use him in RTA, less pick, maybe. No, I'm actually gonna place him here. I think I would just use him Siege, but in Siege, I don't even think he would do that great. Next up, Slayer's Greg. Greg, I would say, is pretty interesting unit, but it has the attack buff and the speed buff. However, we have the pure vanilla cookie right now that has attack buff, speed buff, and immunity, and is way faster. Like, sure, this thing has the boost, but the base speed of this thing is just too shit. So it's kind of hard outclassed by a pure vanilla cookie. So for that reason, I would say that Greg gets probably 65-ish for me. Yeah, I think I would use it, but since the pure vanilla cookie is there and that's just so much faster, like the boost is nice. It's a lot of boost, but you're also kind of killing your team on the same process. And the S2 and S1 really don't like help too much with the boost or anything that he's doing. So yeah, Greg gets a 65 from me. He's not really that interesting of a unit. Gurkha is just RTA these days. But he's bad at RTA. Siege offense, maybe. Arena offense wouldn't do it. Yeah, Gurkha, I would say he's not that bad in RTA as people would give him credit for. But he's really not that good. So Gurkha's just 60. Most common build, I would say, Bio Revenge with just a lot of HP and speed. Seimei did take a decent hard hit for... the S2 nerf in RTA. S2 nerf in RTA made her quite a bit worse. Also, the current meta is not the best for her in RTA. However, she is absolute god tier in arena offense for inter-server with the Leo, Feng Yang, and Alaya. That team is pretty much beating everything in Team 1 in inter-server for like a few seasons already right now. Oops. So that definitely has high value. For me, she's still the most boring unit in the game because she's just the passive. Like, I don't even need her S1 or S2 in the team. It's just need a passive. So I bowl her on Despair Revenge. So at least her S1 can stun. That's the only reason. Siege offense, very good. Arena offense, slow clear, very good. Speed clear, not. RTA, decent. So she gets a 75 from me. I would say that she's currently... is she the best in some siege offense? She has some siege offense where she becomes very good against, like, for example, Giselle, the Dark Hollyberry cookie. She's very good. But against some other things, I would say, like, she's good against Kikis and Noras and that kind of stuff. But at that moment, you can also just throw Pheromones at it. So is it really that great? Well, I would say, yeah, for Arena offense. She has the Arena offense, like, God tier level. PvE-wise, she's not worth anything. But I think it's fair to play Seimei at 80. Dumon, you can place her siege defense. It's somewhat tricky if your guild has a lot of them, because the moment that it starts landing things and you can't really snipe that team, you have to play a bruiser fight, and a bruiser fight might just die to the Dumon. So it's kind of decent on siege defense. Arena offense, defense not worth. RTA, kind of a decent RTA unit, but not used as much. So I think I'll just give it like a 75. It's not really crazy good, but RTA-wise, she's actually very annoying. She can be very annoying. She just has the issue that she has to land the third skill. That's the only issue she had. If she would always land the third skill, I would definitely place her somewhere here. But since she has that resistance check and that kind of stuff, probably 75 is fair. Onmyjouji, I still think he's one of the better arena offense units, because with the Camilla meta, you can go like Galleon, this thing, and then some stripper in front of it. The thing why he becomes very good against Camillas is because he doesn't crit Camillas. He does a lot more damage than a Kaki does. Plus, Kaki would be targeted by the Camillas. Onmyjouji will not be targeted by the Camillas, and even if they do, Onmyjouji doesn't give a shit about the strip, or not the strip, the freeze. So, arena offense, probably one of the best arena offenses out there. I would say for siege offense, probably just still Tiana Galleon. Onmyjouji would do a lot of damage. Damage is somewhat nerfed, but I think it's still quite some damage in there. Siege defense, it is quite a bit nerfed, but I think it's still good in there. RTA, it's quite a bit nerfed, but I think it's still good in there as well. So it is one of those units that you can use everywhere quite a bit. It's not really shining in something. While arena offense, I would say he shines. And then everything else, he's just quite good. He's not exceptionally good, but he's quite good. So yeah, mainly for arena offense, I gave him the higher value. But you can use him like siege defense, definitely usable. Arena defense, not that great though. But into server defense, I've seen some, and those actually are very scary. Because the moment that they survive, the moment that they start going for some hard hits, the moment that you want to bruiser it, he has the potential to just slice through like a Feng Yang or something in a bunch of hits. Dorothy, a lot of people would like me to place all the way at the bottom, but actually Dorothy is best in slot, or it is strongest damage dealer next to a Leo. It's not really best in slot. I would give best in slot to like other things, but it's the highest damage dealer next to a Leo. I would definitely use it. This thing can hit like an insane amount of damage, but the whole kit just doesn't make any sense. Like the destroy after that and that kind of shit just doesn't make any freaking sense. So for that reason, I'm just gonna place her pretty low. Oh, by the way, Onmyjouji build is speed attack on Vile Revenge or Vile Will. Vile Nem could also be a thing. But Dorothy, it's just pure damage, and then, yeah, that's just it. Pure damage, rage. I would make it slow next to a Leo, on Will, Libet tanky, that's it. Kiki, one of the better siege defense units out there still to this day. Also into server defense, one of the better ones. Late pick for RTA, pretty good one. You could place it to TOA kind of stuff, like next to an Amber. So definitely has a bunch of value in a lot of places. And for siege defense, it's not as good as a Sylvia, but it's definitely high up there. And you can also use the siege offense together with, like, I would say my siege offense would be a Kiki with a Nora and then an Amber. I definitely think that would do a lot of damage towards the enemy that way. But yeah, is it super great in defense right now? It's slightly nerfed, but it's still very good. So Kiki gets an 85 for me. Would I one-up that? Well, you do have the potential to place her in a 5th pick in RTA as well. So actually for that reason, and she's siege arena defense, you can place it there too. Yeah, now since she's like pretty good in a lot of spots, I actually one-up her to 90. She's not the best in slot, but she's pretty close to best in slot for a bunch of places. So for that reason, Kiki on the 90 is fair for me. Best build is Vio Destroy on a lot of HP, high speed, and then still some accuracy. Daniel. Daniel is one of those units, if you have the best setup, it's very nice. I think it's very good against the Camilla meta as well, because he can do a lot of damage to Camillas the moment that there's 0 attack bar. However, in RTA, it's kind of hard to place that in. Arena offense, defense, I think it's hard to place that in as well. Siege, well, Siege offense, Arena offense, maybe. RTA, maybe. So he gets a few maybes for me. I have seen some people do okay with it, but it also feels like, oh, this draft works this time, and the next 3 times it doesn't work because you either miss a thing or two, or he just drafts differently or something like that. So Daniel gets a 70 for me. Most common build, I think it's just Vio tanky on speed, HP, accuracy or some shit. Jackson, also one of those units I don't like too much. I think for Siege offense could be okay. Arena defense, not really. RTA is just okay. I feel like he's overrated in RTA because a lot of people feel like, oh, I use this unit and then I pair it with like a Bird and a Sierra, I'm gonna get so much attack bar. Yeah, kinda, it's not that bad, but it's, I think, better as a counter pick. As a counter pick into like a CP or something like that, he becomes pretty good, but the issue is he's same as Seimei, he's just a passive totem, whereas his S2, too low rates to actually stun anything, his S1, pretty much useless, so... he has some high counterpick potential in RTA, but I don't think you would use him in Siege or Arena too much. So for that reason, I'll probably place him on 70. Ella, I think Ella is actually not bad. I would use Ella in Siege offense. I could see Ella being used in an Arena offense. If you play some Leo with some units and then Ella lowers cool times or something, I'm not entirely sure. I could see something used like that. I would see Ella being used in some labyrinth stages or stuff like that. That's definitely possible. RTA can be an annoying pick as well. So Ella has a lot of potential to be annoying. It's not used as much, but I've seen a few Ellas being used. It was actually not that bad. So 75 for Ella for me. It's also kind of like I'm not sure kind of placement. But definitely an interesting unit. Most common build is probably just Vio Revenge or Vio Nem, Vio Will. I think Vio Will is the most viable one. And then 100 res and speedy and tanky. Maya is probably one of the shittiest units in game. Maya is like a Nora but worse. Maya can well be killed by multi-hits, but no one gives a shit. I feel like Maya is probably also one of those units that would be on Lydia tier that I would just not use. She's just... Like any of the units above 60, I would use. But 55 is for me the edge that I would say like, no, it's not even used. Like, I couldn't put Maya on defense, but I might as well tell my guildie saying like, yeah, I put Maya in there, but might as well put a Nora in there. It probably does better because Nora actually does damage. So yeah, not really that great. Build, I don't give a shit. I wouldn't use the unit, Fire Will, whatever. Benedict though. Benedict, would I actually use this thing? I would use it. Probably Siege Offense. Siege Offense, it has a few interesting options. I think it can one-shot like Theomarses and a few other units. It has some options in RTA as well. Into server offense might be using it, but I wouldn't really use it too much. We tried it on Siege Defense. There are a few Siege Defenses that did okayish, but they actually needed, in that case, a Geldnir and a Dark Monkey next to it, and then Benedict suddenly did good. So yeah, is that much ass? Yeah, that's a little bit much ass. So Benedict, I think it could be okayish, but for me, it just gets like a 65. I still feel like the old Dominic should have always been Benedict, and then the unit was very good. But yeah, he's just that, so. Benedict, 65. Probably the build is speed, crit rate, and then attack, or speed, crit damage, attack, via will or something. Maximilian, I would say Maximilian probably goes 95. Do we go higher than that? No, I don't think so. And the reason that I don't go higher on Maximilian, Maximilian is very good in all PvE stuff. Maximilian is very good in TOA. Maximilian is very good in Siege offense. Maximilian is good in Arena offense. Maximilian is good in RTA. However, Maximilian is not that great on defense. Like, I would say Maximilian on defense for Siege is like 9 out of 10 Lucian food. To be honest, Maximilian, if you want to put some damage to it, he becomes Lucian food. So you really have to build something in there that you cannot Lucian it. And even then, I would feel that the Maximilian is way easier to tank by just going like, oh, Abellio, or oh, hey gang, because you need to strip. So in Siege defense, he's really not that great. Arena defense, kind of the same thing. So These units are higher than him, mainly because they have like some defense potential, whereas this unit doesn't have any defense potential. But he's very good at everything else. Shun is one of those units I also don't really like. I would say that Shun needs a guaranteed land on the S2, or even land through immunity, or get an additional turn afterwards or some shit. Maybe that's too OP, I don't know. But Shun, you could use it, but I think he's just really bad. Like, I would probably build him like speed, crit rate, attack, high accuracy, or crit damage attack, via will. Ritsu, kind of the same thing. I did hear some people say that he is not too bad if you have him, that there's a few options for it. But both of them, I would just say, is like siege offense, maybe defense, but neither of them would do great. Arena offense, defense, they're not good. PvE, they're not good. And RTA, they're also not great, but could be used. So I would say both of them, for that, they're kind of in this rank. Would I feel that they are better than these units? No, to be honest, not. To be honest, neither of them are actually better than that. Some people did say that Ritsu, if you time like whatever you're hitting right and you absorbing all, or you're taking all of the attack bars and that kind of stuff, it could be nice, but you still have to land all of those things. So I still think Ritsu is not that great. Ritsu might be, if one of the two goes higher, it's probably Ritsu. And builds for them, both are the same, like fire, will, speed, crit damage attack, I guess, or crit rate attack. Veronica is just RTA. I wouldn't really use it in arena offense, defense. Wouldn't use it in siege offense, defense. Siege offense, maybe it could be used, but it's not. Well, yeah, siege offense, I could see it being used. DOA, you could actually use it. It's not crazy good, but I think it's decent. But RTA, it's very good. So I'm going to give Veronica an 85. That's kind of on tier with the other units. Like, you could use it in siege offense, but it's not really super good in that, but it's really good in RTA. Destiny, coolest unit in the game, but definitely one of those too hard to rune. I would say siege offense is probably the only place that she's actually good at. RTA, too hard to rune. Arena, too hard to rune. Siege defense could be used here and there, but it's not that great. So it's kind of like a Zeratul. Like, it's super good if you have the absolute craziest runes, because you need high attack, high crit rate, high speed, survivability, some accuracy. You need everything. So I would definitely use it if I had it, because it's just one of the coolest units in game. I kind of want to put it on 70 because I would absolutely use it, but I think it's so hard to use that for most people. It's just, it's not really doable. Then with Audrey, I think Audrey is actually somewhat underrated. I would definitely say siege offense, very nice. Siege or arena offense, next to, once again, the Leo Alaya kind of stuff. I think she's very nice there as well. RTA, somewhat underrated. She's kind of annoying. She does hit a lot. She has some healing. She always has the defense buff up. She is actually pretty annoying. So I think for overall usage, she might actually be somewhat underrated. Now I'm going to put her 70 though, because she's not used as much. Probably has a reason that she's not that great. But I do think that Audrey is somewhat underrated. I think she's actually pretty nice. Build is probably, you could put her on Vampire, but probably you want to go on Fire, Will, and then high defense and damage stats. Giselle, on the other hand, is one of the better units on siege defense. Very annoying unit. RTA, it's okay-ish, but not really that great. Arena defense, it's also pretty annoying as well, because the moment that it's the same thing as the Poseidon, if you get slightly bad RNG'd against Poseidon, your match is over. Giselle with the double invisibility on the whole team as well, and having perfect AI to do that skill, your match is guaranteed over if you don't kill her in the first turn or reset her, or like don't give her a turn. So for defense in Arena, I think she's definitely very good defense Arena. She's definitely very good siege defense. Siege offense would definitely still use her. And RTA, she has quite some usability as well. Plus, I think in the PvE dungeons, she would do nice to annoying as well, because she do have that AoE armor break setup for everyone. So I would say Giselle is pretty high ranked for me, and I would give that a 90 as well. Most common build, I would say Vio Will on speed crit damage defense, speed crit rate defense, or even defense crit damage defense. Something along the lines of that. Make sure you have high crit rate and high accuracy as well. And not too low on HP that you get instantly sniped. Could also build it like a Lucian tank, but it's a little bit hard on there. Then we have this thing, which is, once again, one of those units I wouldn't use. It has one of those really bad revives. The revive even says revives with a little HP. Like, we don't even know what the fuck a little is. Like, this thing is just bad. Like, bad from A to Z. These I don't even know how to ruin. I wouldn't even ruin them. Like if I will Wonder Dress, whatever. But this thing is just straight up bad. Wouldn't use. This thing is not bad. It is somewhat struggling with the low base speed, and therefore you kind of want to go for a Swift build rather than Vio, but she would do better on Vio, and she has that skill too that provides the Oblivion as well. And it's pretty low cooltime, so the Oblivion makes it pretty nice, so I give her 75. Siege offense, yes. Arena offense, you could use this into Camillas. Nah, it's probably better to use like other stuff into Camillas, but it is an option to use into Camillas and some other units for arena offense. It's not the best. Arena or RTA, it's pretty good, but not insane. And siege offense would probably use as well. Siege defense wouldn't use that. So I give it an 80 tier. I definitely think it's a nice unit, but it does have to be like a setup for other units next to it. And you probably have to counter like 1 or 2 passes with the S2 to make her actually have like the full value. Then we have, this is Kavachi, or that's Kavachi. I think this is Xenosec, this is Kavachi. We do have the Puppeteer skins coming soon, so the hopes are there for the balance patch on January, that's late January, that these things are going to be buffed. But who knows? This unit is just straight up very weird because there's not a single skill on this unit that is interacting with artifacts. It doesn't have any crit rate and it doesn't have any accuracy. So for that reason, a lot of the artifacts are like, yeah, just do whatever. So it's kind of weird. It's a weird attack buff kind of stuff. Would I really use this unit? Not really. So I think I would kind of use it, but not really. I think I'm going to place it over here. Then we have this thing, which is the counter to some stuff in RTA. It's not too bad. You don't see it in Siege. You don't really see it in Arena or anything like that. So I think it's a little bit better. It might be used as like this Siege or this RTA last pick kind of stuff. Pretty nice at that, but I think that's about it. Then we have Light Ivor, and Light Ivor is very good for Siege offense. Well, Siege offense is maybe a little bit RNG on this kit. But Siege defense is definitely good. It's very annoying, even though if it goes full ham on a dark unit, it could still do a lot of damage. You could say like, okay, it's just countering it by Leo, but this thing still gets a lot of turns. It could actually be fire, it could actually take a lot of turns, it could armor break, it could strip all the things. So definitely a very strong unit for Siege defense. Arena defense, kind of the same thing, because not everyone has a dark tank, and more often the dark unit is the damage dealer rather than the setup. And if this thing starts hitting like any of those and stunning it, might be pretty annoying as well. RTA, also really good unit. So definitely a bunch of the defenses out there, very good. RTA, very good. So I'm going to put Light Ivor at a 90. I would say that she does need good artifacts and good runes to have like high accuracy. Her activation rates are somewhat on the lower side. But her main damage comes from taking that many turns, additional damage artifacts on speed, HP. And having good accuracy on her is pretty interesting as well. So definitely a solid unit, and she is a 90 for me. You could build her Swift, but Vio is also fine. And then Vio will, Swift will, or Swift Broken is also fine. Then we have the Dark Ivor. And Dark Ivor is, I would say, for Siege defense, not bad. But Siege defense, it mainly shines if you have like a Sylvia or a Geldnir next to it. And then like a Fae or something. So you actually have some unit with ignore defense or anything like that. If you don't really have those units, it becomes a bit less for Siege defense. Arena offense, it's too random. It could start hitting things and then trigger a Pisama passive or an Abelio passive, so I don't really like that. Siege offense, more or less kind of the same thing. If you happen to have the right units, like for example, you have a Sigrid with a Han and then a Fae, you can definitely use it, but you can also definitely lose a bunch of matches on that because you just fight things that have will or anything like that. So it's definitely a nice pair, but is it really the best unit out there? I'm not sure. I think it's slightly overhyped. It's very cool of a unit, but I think it's slightly overhyped for how good it is. Defense-wise, well, Siege defense is there. RTA, you can see it here and there, but I feel like it's mostly not that great. And if it's very good in the spot, it's pretty easy to just ban it out. And then the other units are most likely not really a must ban. So for that reason, I give it an 80. Most common builds, I would say you can put additional damage to this one as well, and then either Vio, but most likely it's going to be Swift. Dark Cassandra, very strong unit for Siege offense. We tried it on Siege defense, but it's not really good enough, because if you have to build it tanky enough, it doesn't do enough damage. And the other way around, most likely. Siege offense, pretty good. Arena offense, I haven't really found my way around it that I like to use it in Arena offense, though. But it can be used, RTA can be used as well, but I would say it's like about a 75 for me. Most common cases, it's going to be a Swift build on this thing, because you could put Vio to it, but with Vio you even enhance the difficulty of building her stuff even more. But Vio makes it that you can go for an S3, S2 proc and then maybe kill something. But she does kind of struggle with the amount of strippers that are out there right now, the amount of high base speed units that are out there. Plus her speed lead is there, but her speed lead is low, so that doesn't really help as well. This is the... I think this is the Light Ezio, which is also Ian. If I took Altar here, which, well, make it look at this, it's the Ian. I would say Ian is definitely a nice unit, has the issue which the Oberon used to have, and that issue is that his Awakening goes to resistance. Makes him a lot harder to build. So for that reason, getting enough stats to him in a fast team is kind of difficult, where he's also tanky enough, where he doesn't have damage. The damage output is not that high. I noticed I had to put very high runes to it to actually build it like strong enough. I would say for Siege offense, it's an insta-win. But it is hard to build. It's definitely hard to build. And that would be the Chimera team with the Eon and then the... what's called? So Chimera, Eon, and the Homunculus. However, if you put the same runes, which you can actually do a lot easier on a... Covenant is going to do a lot more damage than this thing. So it ignores the passives, yes. But you also have to keep in mind you do a lot less damage. So it's kind of tricky to make him do enough damage. But the team on Siege offense is definitely an instant win. It's very nice. But RTA, he's not great. Siege defense, he's not great. Arena offense, defense, he's not great. So I would say he's a 70 for me because he's that good in Siege offense. But besides that, it is still hard to make him work. Dark Bayek, or also Salah. I don't really like the unit. It's too RNG random for me. If it happened to work at the right things, it can kind of work. We've seen some on Siege defense which performed okay to well, like a very high speed Swift or speed Vio set. Offense wouldn't really use it. TOA, Dungeons, PV, any of that stuff is not really useful. RTA can be used, but I don't like it as much as well. So I probably throw the Bayek at a 70 for me. So once again, high speed on Swift or Vio, and make sure you have some accuracy and then additional damage artifacts. I guess this is Deus. Deus is one of those units that can be used. It's kind of a setup for itself where he armor breaks on his skill and then wants to do damage on himself again. So is he really the Seppo or is he the damage dealer? Well, if you look at the base stats, he has pure in attack, so it's kind of weird as well. Do I really like the unit though? I don't really know. Like, he's neither the damage dealer nor the setup, so neither of them he does really well. And for that unit, he's kind of in the middle where he has two jobs, and he does neither of the two jobs really well. It's yeah, you do two jobs and you do neither of them like 50-50. You do both of them like 35% of the time. Like, this I don't really like the unit too much. The Valkyrja, or whatever this guy's name is called. Wait, did I took the wind one or the light one? I think I took the wind one. This is a light. Just so you know, this is light. I think I placed the wrong one. This unit, I would say, Siege defense, never seen him. I don't think he would do too great there because you just would get Juno and Veramos and that kind of stuff. Arena defense, same thing, never seen him. So I guess he's just an RTA unit. And some people told me he's like super good in RTA. But I barely see this unit, and yeah, sure, there's a lot of good 5th picks. Like a Daniel in a good 5th pick slot is good, but I think for me this thing is just a 5th pick, and it's just an RTA 5th pick. I would say in PvE kind of stuff he might be okay-ish, but I still don't really see the potential of this unit all too much. Like I fought him a few times, didn't do too much damage. Has to strip everything to fight it properly. I would say TOA might be a thing, but then again, the animations are also super long, so do you want to have like 6 hours of TOA? Arena offense, don't think I would use him. Siege offense, I might use him. I might use him Siege offense, but that's just more of a might. And I've never seen him on Siege defense, so probably don't expect him to be good. Don't see him too much on RTA as well, so he gets by best 70 for me. The build is probably speed, HP, or you want to put crit rate on the slot 4, something like that, and then decent accuracy as well. So this one is supposedly Jessica. I think I took the wrong one. I think I took Layla, but or Leia. It is Jessica, and Jessica is one of those units that seemed really good on paper. It has the HP lead for Arena, which does make a little bit interesting sense for an arena defense. However, if an arena defense is outspeedable, it is always somewhat weaker. And sure, armor break doesn't land, bomb doesn't land. Definitely don't bomb this because she throws more bombs back at you than... that's actually a very funny thing. She can throw a lot of bombs back. But yeah, she's definitely decent-ish, but she's kind of missing something. So she gets a 70 from me. I think she goes on Despair or Vio, either one of those two, and then a high speed, and then tanky. This one is also really bad. I would say that it does some damage. I would probably use it Siege Offense because it's cool, but this unit is probably as good as this, but it just deals damage where these units don't really even deal damage. But Vio will kind of style, but I think it's pretty bad out there. Then we have this thing, which I would also say is really bad. It does some damage, but the whole passive mechanic that he has for extra crit damage on an occasion that's not always there, it's just kind of bad. I don't really feel that unit too much as well. This thing actually haven't looked too little at. I haven't really seen it all too much, but I think it's pretty bad as well. So I'm just going to place it over here. I'm not even too familiar with these two builds, but I literally see no one use them from the people that have them. So I think that's my fair assumption of these units just being bad. So then the dark one is the one with the Death Break and then Boost Up, I think. I have seen a few people use it, but it doesn't really feel too well. I would say that Siege Offense RTA, you can kind of use it here and there, but I feel like that there's better options out there. And it's kind of there, but it doesn't really do too much. And it's really one of those things like, yeah, like skill 3s look cool, but then the skill 1s and stuff, like it does the double skill, but also kind of like the Deus thing, like it does everything kind of half. It's not really there. Oh, and that one is also the one that does actually strip, but yeah, strip, death break, low rates, so it's kind of there, but also not really there. Maybe this one is a little bit higher if people get used to it, but I feel like it's still kind of weak. I wouldn't really use it. So the other one is the one with the strip. So I'm not 100% sure if this thing is with the strip right now. But I've never seen the unit, so I can claim it's bad by never just seeing the unit. Otherwise, people do have the unit, they would use it. So yeah. But the light one also has the strip. Wait, let me actually double check. I'm checking this thing over here. It has the strip. It has the attack power increase. There's a few things to it that would be pretty interesting. But I feel like you can make some cleaves with this, but just Siege Offense, maybe Arena Offense, RTA is already not that great. So that makes the whole tier list for all of the LD5s. Definitely took quite a bit longer than the normal elemental units. Main reason was because if you build, or if you get one of those LD5s, I kind of want you to use it, or at least see like a lot of the LD5s that you might put in storage, I would still use, because for me, actually only these three, I would just not use at all. Well, maybe this one also not, but I'm just not gonna build it. If I would have to use it, I can still kind of make it work. Like all of those, they're bad, but you can still kind of make it work. Like I did it with the Dark Monkey for quite a while. These things as well, like they're not great, but you can still make them work. And anywhere upwards of like 75 or even upwards of 70 are definitely good units. Yeah, I would say upwards of 70 are definitely usable, good units out there that are more than just niche. And then everything up there is definitely usable, but some more better than in other situations and that kind of stuff. But video is long enough, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you appreciate it, and see you as always in the next one.